Well, and good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio, and a busy one at that. Lot to do on the program today. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we'll make our picks for the divisional round and CFP National Championship with our buddy Ken Zalis. A lot of pressure on your boy.
Why's that?
Gotta be within a game at the end of. I mean, I guess technically, if I hold serve, I'm not eliminated, but gotta be within a game. We'll see how it goes. John Proctor, trying to play mind games last night, posted his picks on the spreadsheet to try to get in my head, I guess. I'm not really sure.
And it worked?
No, I think I'm just going to go with my picks. I don't think I'm just going to pick opposite from him. I think I'm just going to go with the picks. I don't know if the picks that he sent you are the same as the ones that he posted. I have no clue.
I haven't looked yet.
But I'm just going to make my picks this week. Because, when has that ever done me wrong? Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, that's coming up in a couple of minutes. It is an annual tradition. Our friend Dave Ginsburg, longtime AP sports writer here in Baltimore, he will unveil his Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. And I'm trying to remember how long ago we started doing this. It feels like it's been, 8 years, something like that we've been doing this. But Dave, always very kind. He does not have to do this by any stretch of the imagination, but he just chooses to anyway. And we'll have a good conversation about who he has on or off his Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. Then, obviously, a lot of Ravens and Bills conversation this morning. Gordon McGuinness from Pro Football Focus. Tracy Wolfson, who, of course, will be on the sideline for CBS. And Steve Wyche, all joining us throughout the course of the morning. So we'll look forward to all of that. Today's show brought to you by the Stan the Fan Variety Hour, which returned last night. Stan and Childs Walker, the Baltimore Sun, getting into Ravens Bills. If you missed it, you can find it facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Now, you go ahead and do the show, and I'm going to watch the fifth set of TN.
Yeah, I know. So I wish I could. I hope I love something as much as you love tennis. Someday in my life, as you came in, obviously nose deep into who's playing right now. Who's the guy? The guy that no one knows?
Lerner Tien.
Yes.
Okay. 19 years old, Lerner Tien.
Oh, wow. 19 years old.
Yeah, 19 years old. And taking Daniil Medvedev. Here's the real problem is that he was up 2-0. And in the third set tiebreak, he had a match point. And then he squandered that and squandered the tiebreak altogether. And I just had this feeling like, that's it. That's it. You don't take Daniil Medvedev to match point, blow it, and then...
You don't have faith in the kid?
No, I don't. Not even a little bit. And that was well-founded because Lerner Tien then proceeded to lose the fourth set in like 5 minutes. Just got steamrolled. So I assumed it was over going into the fifth. But he found his legs, and he actually went up a break in the fifth, but now they're back on serve. And I'm very annoyed by the idea that I'm supposed to do whatever. What, you want me to talk to Ken? With all due respect.
Now you have to make picks correctly while you're watching.
Well, I've never done that before.
Exactly.
That's not going to start now.
So maybe this will be the good luck charm.
Yeah, maybe.
Be watching tennis the whole time.
Good morning, Ken Zalis. How are you, sir? Hello. Aha.
I'm good. How
there
are you?
He is. That's our guy. What's going on, buddy? Everything good?
Everything's great.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's a little chilly.
I legitimately the other day I made a joke about it on Twitter and Facebook last night, but
bad boo.
Legitimately, I swear to God, there have been nights recently where I've been like, I need to get gas, and then I've said to myself, I'm not getting out of my car. That is not happening.
It's funny. I have been delaying going and filling up my gas tank, and I have reached the day where I need to do it.
Oh yeah. Oh, you don't have a choice. You get to the point where, and then somehow that day's worse. And I think what it really comes to is, you convince yourself, well, you're not doing it once the sun's gone down. There's just no way. There is no way that when the sun is down, I'm going and filling my gas tank. And then you remember the sun goes down at 4 o'clock. God. Hate it here. Hate it. All right. I guess we can do this. We'll make some picks. I'm in hell. There's no way around it. The only good news that came from last week is that John Proctor decided to join us at the party at the bottom of the table. But I got no closer. Really needed Green Bay to actually, show up for that game against the Eagles, and it didn't happen. So, Ken's in trouble at the top of the table. Ken's now 3 games back of James Revere. We're going to let James Revere, a newcomer, barely involved, a listener that just asked his way in, we're going to let him win in year 1. And also, when he got in, he didn't even know what he was up against. I remember him sending me a message. I didn't realize I was going up against all of the big media people in Baltimore in this league. I'm not sure I made the right decision. Now we're going to let him win.
Media. All the big
win.
I picked a bad week to have a bad week.
Yeah, you picked a bad week to have a bad week. Ken went 2-6 last week, while James went 6-2. So James is now up by 3.
Darn.
With just 8 games to play. At the bottom of the table.
So Jeremy, I have no shot then, right?
I mean, you're not mathematically eliminated yet. There's still 8 games remaining.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
you're right.
you do you have a shot? No, you don't. You don't. I'm just being honest. You don't.
If I continue to go 2-6 in the last 8,
you don't have a shot either at that point, no doubt. All right, at the bottom of the table, I'm 2 games behind both John Proctor and Paul Valley, so I need one of them to have another miserable week, and I just gotta pray for like 500. I guess you can't go 500 this week. I gotta pray for a 3-2.
I just realized I'm only picking 1 game different than James.
Oh boy, well, it's over.
I guess.
Sorry. You don't get to change your picks. You do not get to do that. We now know that you only pick 1 game different. You don't get to change. Actually, we should have had him send the picks to me.
Yeah,
that's what we're supposed to do at this point in
I'll
the season.
Honest,
is not have picks impact each other. But let's get into it. Just 4 playoff games and the college football playoff national championship game to pick. Picks are brought to you this week by the CIAA tournament, Griffin.
That's right. Baltimore is welcoming the excitement of the Food Line CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament back to CFG Bank Arena this spring, February 25th through March 1st. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Again, Ticketmaster.com for your tickets to the Food Line CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament at CFG Bank Arena, February 25th through March 1st.
All right, where are we starting?
We'll start on Monday nights. The college football playoff national championship is going to be played in Atlanta. And we got the 8-seeded Ohio State Buckeyes against the number 7-seeded Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And the Buckeyes, 8-point favorites, 7:30 kick. So probably more like 8 o'clock on Monday night.
This is very tricky because I actually think that Ohio State is that much better than Notre Dame. But you do have to remember that, like, in a national championship game, Ohio State does not care about covering the spread. Like, they care about winning the game and nothing else. So it becomes tricky about how you pick this because even I just think Ohio State is notably that better than Notre Dame, and it's no disrespect to Notre Dame. They deserve to be there, but they also had some good fortune. Like, we know that Indiana's fraudulent. They got to face a backup quarterback, and then I don't think Penn State's won a big game since Joe Paterno. So I legitimately believe Ohio State is 10 points to 2 touchdowns better than Notre Dame. Ohio State's the pick.
I hate both these things.
Oh, of course you do. What is there to like about this? There's nothing to like about this.
Deep-rooted as a Miami Hurricane fan from the 80s. Deep-rooted. Could they tie and stuff like that.
Catholics and convicts. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah. It's just deep-rooted. And until last week, I was...
Speaking of teams that haven't won a big game in a long time, Miami.
No,
Go ahead.
Coach can't count, so
Go ahead.
But before the games last week, I was like sort of set on that Notre Dame was going to win the national championship. The injuries that they sustained to the offensive line really bother me for a team that wants to be a run first type team. And Ohio State, whatever you think of them, their defense is legit. So I'm gonna go Ohio State. I don't like the number. I think it's too big of a number in a championship type game. But I don't know how you overcome the injuries that Notre Dame now has.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the question is, can Notre Dame slow the game down enough that it keeps it close? And I do think that they can, probably for only about 3/4 though, and it'll be close most of the way until a Jack Sawyer or somebody else comes in and makes a huge play that swings everything. So yeah, I'm gonna take Ohio State in this one. Funny thing is, like Notre Dame they're 11-0 against the spread in their last 11 games. They obviously straight up they haven't lost a game since that Northern Illinois game. But the last loss against the spread, another team from Ohio, Miami, Ohio. They couldn't cover against Miami, Ohio.
Oh, they got an Ohio problem.
Yeah, they got an Ohio problem.
I also noted Notre Dame's never beaten Ohio State, which is kind of crazy to me. I know it's not. It's
Never?
a small.
Never?
It's
Never.
a small sample size.
I thought they played like 8 times and they had one.
No, hang on a second.
or
I'll pull up Notre
twice.
Dame, Ohio State football. Go tell me what everybody else is picking.
Who did you say you were taking?
What are we doing here? Yes, Ohio State.
All three of us are on Ohio State.
What are you listening to something else?
Don't you realize you have to make picks?
I'm not worried about any of that. I'm making my
You're
picks.
trying to.
Just tell me what
you're gonna
everybody else
lose.
picked.
3 backers of Notre Dame: Andrew Stetka, Ryan Shell, and John Proctor is on.
There
Notre
you go.
Dame.
I can make up a point on John Proctor
Yeah,
potentially.
but you're trying to catch Paul as well.
It doesn't matter. I just need to catch one
Doesn't
of
matter
them.
which
They're
one.
both 2 games. What are you doing? It's a very weird bit. And Ohio State 6-0 all time against Notre Dame.
Oh, all right.
6-0. Now they've only played. Actually, all of these games have been since 19. They never played before 1995.
That can't be right.
That doesn't feel right. But this is the entire history. I mean, I guess there were fewer. Like there weren't as. I don't know. I really don't know how they hadn't played before 19. That doesn't seem right. There's got to be.
You're looking at Ohio State's website.
I am.
Okay. I don't know. All right. I guess on to the next game. The Houston Texans.
Yeah, this is wrong. Ohio State is just leaving out all of the history before. That's wild, Jack. They're just leaving out every game before 1995. There were games in 1935 and 1936 that Ohio State is just pretending like they never happened.
Because they lost those, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's wild.
I'm sure they're valid for this exercise.
They're wild.
Exactly.
Yes, obviously, if it happened in 1935, it has a lot to do with what might happen today.
All right, the Houston Texans are heading to Kansas City, taking on the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are laying 8.5. 8.5. It's a 4:30 game on Saturday.
God, this is gonna kill me. You know what you're supposed to do in this spot. If the Chiefs are favored by more than a score, you don't bet them. But you also don't think the Texans have any business being in this game. This is the ultimate test of the Chiefs in big numbers. Because it's not really a big number. It's a half a point above a 1-score game. Son of a bitch. And the Chiefs look like a better team, obviously, down the stretch when they got Hollywood Brown on the field. Whoa. You know what, man? Betting against the Chiefs is the one thing that's actually that worked in my favor this season. Texans.
Yeah, I can't. You're right every time, and I get burned every time because they don't cover big numbers. But dome team going out to play in the snow, potentially freezing cold. I don't think the Texans are that good, and the Chiefs have gotten everybody healthy at the right time. Once again, I'm gonna regret it, but I'm gonna go Kansas City.
I mean, I'm not going to go down picking against the Chiefs, even if it is a large number here, having to win by
They don't cover those.
One score. I know. I just can't pick against the Chiefs. I'm picking them next week too, whoever they're playing.
Okay.
And I don't know if you saw referee for this game, Clay Martin.
I don't know what that. Why
Chiefs are 6-0 with Clay Martin.
they can win the game and not cover.
I understand.
That's what I'm assuming is going to happen.
Mahomes has also never lost in the divisional round.
I agree with all these things.
4-2 against the spread in the divisional round.
He's got that going for him. That's the first
Taylor
one that you
Swift-
presented that's relevant.
Taylor Swift will be there.
Okay.
The Chiefs are 16-3 straight up. when she's
Straight
there.
up doesn't do anything for you.
11-7 against the spread.
Yeah, so they're 500 more or less.
Point is, I can't find an angle for Houston here. I'm taking Kansas City. I'm taking the Chiefs.
It's nothing
so
like
Glenn,
presenting completely irrelevant information.
you are
on
on Houston, Glenn, as is Andrew Stetka, Jeremy Kahn, Joe Serpico, Ryan Shell, and that means Paul and John Proctor are on the Chiefs.
Well, as they should be. That's the reasonable pick to
big
make.
spot for
But
you.
this
Big
is
spot for you.
it's a huge spot, and it's the worst spot to be in. But the Chiefs don't cover big numbers.
Saturday nights on Fox, 8 o'clock, Washington Commanders are going to Detroit. They are taking on the Lions, and the Lions are the biggest favorites of the weekend, 9.5.
I hate that too, man. I really.
I could also see FanDuel. I don't know if it's still up, but FanDuel had you can bet 0 punts in the game at plus 2,000.
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
I do kind of
like that,
love
yeah.
that. Washington.
Yeah, cool story and all that, but no.
If Detroit's defense was healthy, I would have no problem.
There are levels to this. If they play defense, they don't play defense. They haven't played defense all year. Okay? And you're now going against the best offense maybe in football, but certainly in the NFC. In the Dome, rested, get David Montgomery back. Everybody's back. Everybody's healthy.
No. Not everybody. David Montgomery is. Their defense is still decimated.
Decimated enough to just dominate the last game they were.
Did you see how that? Obviously, that's a hell of a statement against the Vikings, who we can tell were world beaters.
15-2's 50-2, man.
You're right.
I'm going with the Lions. Big blowout.
Wow. Yeah, I like the 0 punts as well. Jaden Daniels became the fourth rookie quarterback to win a playoff game on the road last week. And if he can win another, or if he can win one, I think he can win another. And he's getting 9.5 points here. So
Griffin's like desperate to throw something in that doesn't help in any way.
So I will. I like Jaden Daniels. I like Jaden Daniels.
I like Jaden Daniels too.
I like him too.
He's getting 2 scores here. I'll take 9.5 and the Commanders. Can you guys name the other road rookies?
No, not a chance in hell. Joe Flacco, obviously.
Yes, Joe Flacco. 2008. He became the first rookie quarterback to win a road playoff.
I have no idea. Robert Griffin III? No, he didn't play as a rookie. He got hurt. I don't know who.
There was another rookie from that class.
Russell?
Yes, Russell Wilson. Okay. Russell Wilson, and then in 2009.
I don't know. Why are we doing this?
KZ.
Why are we doing?
Because I
stopped paying attention.
Yeah. Mark Sanchez in 2009.
Oh, thank God.
I'm on the Commanders. Glenn said Commanders as well. Jeremy Kahn on Washington, as is John in Little Rock, and Paul Valley on the Commanders.
All right.
So
a lot of different picks.
My picks this week are so far irrelevant because I cannot move.
Yeah.
Then to Sunday at 3 o'clock, of course, the classic Sunday Night Football 3 p.m. game on NBC. LA Rams at the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles are 6.5-point favorites.
God, I really want to go the Rams here because I just really like the Rams, but what the hell? I'm just doing it. Like, this is how I'm going down, dog. Rams. I'm going down in a blaze of. It's a lot of big spreads.
Whose house?
Yeah, well, it's actually Philadelphia's house. That's where they're playing the game.
Yeah, in a snowstorm versus a warm weather team. Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm taking Philly. Yeah. I just I understand where Glenn's at. Glenn has to make a move, but he knows that this is just not a good spot for the Rams going outdoors in a snowstorm against a team that wants to run the ball anyway. Philly.
Yeah, I agree with everything Ken said there. I think Saquon might go for 200 yards in this game. So, yeah, I will take the Eagles. I think the Eagles might embrace being the villains as well, since the Rams are now America's team. Let's see. John in Little Rock is on the LA Rams. Kyle Ottenheimer on the LA Rams, as is Glenn Clark. So
wait, the public is betting with the Rams?
I don't know if the public is.
If Jeremy Kahn picked listen to me. If Jeremy Kahn picked the Eagles,
then I guess
that means the public's betting with the Rams, which makes no sense.
Because they're America's team now.
Maybe it is.
Yeah. Not in this group though. Only 3 backers of the Rams. Now to Sunday night on CBS at 6:30 in Buffalo. Ravens at Bills. I forgot to write the city Buffalo. Whatever. Ravens -1 is the spread.
Man, I've gone with all road teams so far. Why would I stop now? Genuinely, I believe the Ravens are a touchdown better than the Bills. That doesn't mean that they're going to go win in Buffalo. It's a tough place to play. It's an extraordinarily difficult place to play. There's nothing that you can do to prepare for it. It was a little like, it was pointed out the Ravens were practicing inside yesterday. I'm like, yeah. And then somebody, I think John Harbaugh, somebody said the field was frozen. And I was like, right.
I think John said it.
Yeah, like, okay, that's what you're going to be dealing with.
Well,
Okay, they had the air conditioning way up inside.
I'm sure. I'm so sure that they did.
they don't have like a heated field. I don't know how it works.
I'm befuddled by all of it, but look, the Ravens are notably better than the Bills are. Not as much better than the Bills as they were the Steelers. The Steelers, there was real separation. I think there's 5 to 7 points of separation between the Ravens and the Bills from a team standpoint. But it's playoffs, it's the NFL, it's all of those things, and the Bills are at home, and that's a huge advantage. But I think the Ravens are better. Ravens.
I think if the Ravens win this game, they win the Super Bowl. Because I think this is the best team they're going to face until they get to the Super Bowl. And once they get there, I think they win. I can't believe the Ravens are actually favored. And not that they shouldn't be, but like Buffalo is like one of America's darling teams, and they got the darling quarterback that everybody wants to root for. Blah 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 blah.
I mean, Lamar Jackson's pretty freaking popular with like actual.
He is
people.
popular, but he doesn't get.
I think you're basing it off of like Fox Sports 1 or whatever. Like with actual humans, Lamar Jackson is wildly popular.
I never watched Fox Sports 1 because that guy's an idiot. Which guy? But
there's lots of.
Huh?
When you say that guy, are you just referring to all of them, or I'm not?
No, there's one in particular. I
don't know which one it is.
Broussard, not in that list.
Go ahead.
I'm going to take the Ravens because I think they are the better team. And this has nothing to do with Week 4 because Week 4, half of the Buffalo defense didn't play. Neither of their linebackers played. Their safety didn't play. This is a different Buffalo team. So I don't see the blowout that a lot of people I've heard saying, oh, they're going to run all over them. They ran all over them last time. What I do hope for, it's going to be cold. I hope it snows. I really hope it snows because you're not stopping the Ravens on the ground. Buffalo's defensive line is light. I'll take the Ravens.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just going to try not to like be sick watching this game because I do think it's going to be close the entire way. I don't think it's going to be 35-10 again. Like the value I feel like is in the Bills. Like if the money line plus 100 I think is what I last saw it at. But I mean I'm obviously going to be rooting for the Ravens, and I do truly think that they find a way to win this one, and it's going to be really nerve-wracking the entire way, and should be a really good football game. But yeah,
Tucker at the gun.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'm taking the Ravens.
The Ravens. Yeah, we'll totally be comfortable with that. Can you imagine?
Tucker from 51 in a snowstorm at the gun.
It's 28-27 with 5 seconds left, and they got to. Oh God, our buttholes,
Please.
our poor buttholes. Oh God. Oh no.
Everyone's on the Ravens except for John in Little Rock because he's been picking against them
That's
all
true,
season.
and it's
so he's
you know
keeping,
what, team player, someone
Good.
who understands.
Lone wolf on the Bills.
It's like Femi not putting them in his top 5.
Understands the assignment.
Yeah,
Very good.
Totally gets it.
So Revere and I picked exactly the same.
Yeah,
right?
you did. Yeah.
Well, so
and
I
the only
mean,
one I picked differently was
for what
the
it's worth,
Commanders.
you won't be eliminated this week.
I know it won't be eliminated,
but yeah,
the rest of the way I just have to pick against what I think.
Exactly, or what you think that he thinks. It's what what you think.
It
he
seems
thinks
like we're on the
situation.
same wavelength. So
Weren't last week.
No, we weren't, but now it gets.
Yeah, way to keep the drama in it going into the Super Bowl, Chief. Way to go.
It sucks. This is the first time I've even been this close.
All right, we will see you on Sunday nights.
You definitely will. I have no events.
Weddings, nobody's scheduled a bris for Sunday.
No.
Good news.
Nothing is scheduled the rest of the way.
Ken's like he's trying to poison the moil so he can't make it. Project Game Day Sunday night immediately following Ravens Bills. Come hang out with us. PressBoxOnline.com/gameday. Brought to you by Easy Pass 1-800-GAMBLER, the CIAA tournament. Myself, Rita, Femi, KZ, Stecca, the whole crew. We will see you there. PressBoxOnline.com/gameday. Love you, buddy. See you Sunday.
Okay, take care, guys.
That is Ken Zalis with us for picks. When we come back in, annual tradition, Dave Ginsburg unveils his Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. Right now, according to BBHOF Tracker, Ichiro Suzuki sits at 100%.
Wow.
Would become just the second player ever. Is Dave Ginsburg going to ruin that? Is he going to ruin it? We'll find out next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and it's our very special Best of 2024 issue. On the cover, we celebrate our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Lamar Jackson, as Bo Smolka profiles what the quarterback means to the community beyond the football field. Also inside, we celebrate the top people, performances, and moments of the year in local sports. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always read the entire issue and find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Need a trophy or award that's as unique as the achievement? Look no further than Crown Trophy. With locations in Owings Mills and Gaithersburg, they specialize in custom trophies, plaques, and medals for any occasion. From sports and academic awards to employee recognition and corporate gifts, visit crowntrophy.com today and let them help you create a lasting memory for your school, team, or business. Crown Trophy is a proud supporter of the Maryland Public Secondary Schools Athletic Association. crowntrophy.com.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
I mean, still watching this TN Medvedev match at the Australian Open. It's what time is it over there? It's 2:28 a.m. currently in Melbourne. And they didn't bother to close the roof, and rain was coming. And so now they have to stop the match at 2:28 a.m., 5-5 in the fifth set, 15-15 in the game, to close the roof. Insanity. Utter insanity. I'm like, what the hell is going on? That is crazy. All right, back in here on GCRs, continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. We love the folks at the Brigance Brigade. Everybody knows O.J. Brigance, one of the greatest men in Baltimore history. And they are celebrating an unforgettable evening with the Brigance Brigade Foundation's Winter Soiree. Experience an elegant evening with a purpose. Supporting families battling ALS. Every ticket purchased helps provide critical resources to those in need. It's February 21st at Martin's West. You can go to brigancebrigade.com in order to find out more. That's brigancebrigade.com. Incredible event. You can get a single ticket. You can get a table. You can get a whole group. You can find all the different ticket options available by going to the website. Great food and drinks, live and silent auctions, entertainment, dancing. Just a tremendous night ahead. Again, go to brigancebrigade.org. That's brigancebrigade.org in order to find out more. All right. We are just days away from finding out who is going to join the Baseball Hall of Fame here in 2025. And I don't remember how many years ago. It's been quite a bit. We started doing this with our friend Dave Ginsburg. I just reached out to him on a whim and said, Dave, would you be willing to maybe share your Hall of Fame vote? And he quite kindly has done it every year since then. Longtime Baltimore AP sports writer and friend of the show, friend of Press Box. He is the great Dave Ginsburg, and he's back with us this morning here on GCR. Dave, it's Glenn. It's always good to chat, sir. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that it's snowing outside and we're talking baseball with the Ravens.
Perfect
got a big
timing.
game coming up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just got to take a break
Yeah.
and think about the summer.
Yeah, I was hoping that there would be like a bye week that we could make this. There was just no obvious place to do it. So this made as much sense as any.
This is the absolute perfect time to do it. They make the announcement next week.
Yep.
So no one, then they'll start. Everyone's thinking about it right now. Who cares about baseball?
Right.
Hall of Fame day.
Next Tuesday afternoon, by the way, is the announcement show. So, Dave,
Yeah.
let's take a step back. Let's remind everyone who you voted for last year before we get into who you voted for this year. So last year, your ballot, I think maybe, is this the biggest ballot that you ever had? You are not normally a big ballot guy. Last year, Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, Gary Sheffield, Billy Wagner, Andrew Jones, and Omar Vizquel all got votes from you. Of course, a couple of those, Todd Helton got in, Adrian Beltre got in, Gary Sheffield off the ballot, correct? That was his final year, or is he still on one more?
Yep.
Yeah, that was his final year. So.
Yeah. That was interesting. When you look back, that's the most I've ever done. Some people, they get 10 votes, they're going to go with 10. That's not my style. And, I think every year my thinking sort of changes a little bit. Two of those guys that are still on there, I didn't vote for this year, but as their time on the ballot comes close to expiring, I will rethink that.
Interesting.
Particularly in terms of Omar Vizquel. Great glove. I'm just telling you who I didn't vote for this time. Omar, great glove, 13-time Gold Glove winner, but not much on the batting average. But as his time on the ballot comes close to an end, as in Billy Wagner this year, I like to give these guys a shot.
So you went ahead and said Omar Vizquel. Can we go ahead and say Andrew Jones is the other one that falls off your ballot this year?
Correct. I liked his numbers. He was a heck of a player. Problem with him was that he really, as everyone really might remember, faded terribly once he became 30 years old. And although that guy, I think Vizquel and Andrew Jones will be on my ballot next year. But don't hold me to that because things change over the years. But I did not put those two on. I think they're borderline worthy, but I had four other guys this year that I thought were exceedingly good, deserved to be in, and I'll put off voting on those other two later.
So before we get to the four that you voted for, if I could,
Sure.
just to be the guy that asked the question, someone would say, Dave, well, how could you think someone was a Hall of Famer one year and then not think someone was a Hall of Famer the following year? So I'll let you, explain your thought process and why you would vote for somebody one year and maybe not again the following year.
Well, I always think about first ballot Hall of Famer as being great, just great. And that those are few and far between. However, I do have a couple this year that I do believe are worthy of it. However, I just think that some, as they are on borderline, if they get in after being on the ballot for a while, I just sort of feel that they're due later in the process. You're not a first ballot Hall of Famer, you're not a second, you're not third, but you do ultimately deserve to be in. And I think some of these remain borderline. I'm not sure. I think Omar Vizquel got about 17% vote last year.
Yep.
Everyone looking at his batting average, which was in the 220s, but the guy could really play the field. So, that ultimately, I think I'll give him the vote. I'm not even sure he will get in, but I think to acknowledge the greatness of the person, but not necessarily early in the process.
Well, let's get into some of the first year. Well, you know what? I tell you what, we'll go the other way, because you're basically telling us that the other guys that were on your ballot last year, you are keeping on your ballot this year. So share your thought. The first two votes that you have, Billy Wagner, Carlos Beltran, why do they remain on your ballot this year?
Okay, well, Beltran, I think the flaw that he had was his, I guess, his part in the sign stealing scandal, and that was 8 years ago. As we get farther away from that, I'm a little more forgiving. It wasn't steroids. He was a part of the whole process. He was Rookie of the Year. He's a 9-time All-Star. He is one of 38 players in baseball history to score more than 1,500 runs and drive in over 1,500. I just think he was a really good player who deserves to be in the Hall. Not a first ballot Hall of Famer, but certainly one who deserves ultimately to be in the Hall of Fame.
According to our friends at BBHOF Tracker, he is trending at 80% of the vote right now, so it does seem like he has a good chance of getting in.
Yeah, he keeps getting a little more popular as it goes along. He was 57% last year, and I think that this might be the time. And then and moving on to my other guy, Billy Wagner, is now in his 10th and final year. I just think he was a tremendous left-handed reliever. He had 422 saves, 8th on the all-time list, and most importantly to me, a 2.31 ERA. It's easy to get those saves when you're up by 3 runs, and you give up 2 and you still get the save. But a 2.31 ERA, pretty solid. He was, I think he was just quite one of the better relievers in baseball history, and maybe one of the best as a lefty. So that's why I kept him on my ballot. And Billy, if you don't make it this time, buddy, well, I gave it a shot for you. But there you go.
So Billy Wagner remains on the ballot. I asked this question, Dave. Like, after Billy Wagner, is there another closer post Billy Wagner that you look at and think that they're a Hall of Famer?
Well, I think Francisco Rodriguez might have a shot ultimately. He actually had more saves than Wagner, but his ERA was much higher, and that to me is pretty much of a factor there. I think I misspoke, and that's one of them. I'll look at him down the road, but he had a losing record lifetime. Wagner, really good stats there, 47 and 40, again with that 2.31 ERA, and I just think he's better than Francisco Rodriguez was. Now in his 10th year, certainly I think deserves more consideration from others. Francisco Rodriguez down the line was a pretty solid reliever, but not quite in Billy Wagner's class.
All right, so Billy Wagner gets the vote from Dave Ginsburg, joining Carlos Beltran and staying on the ballot. Now, that means that you have 2 first-year eligible votes that you gave to, I guess let's start with the one that everybody cares about the most, Adam Jones. How in the hell did you not vote for Adam Jones, Dave Ginsburg? What in the world?
He's a total Hall of Famer, but not first ballot.
Love Adam Jones, one of my favorite people.
You know what? It was even better when J.J. Hardy was on it last year. Look, man, I think Adam Jones is a class person.
Yep.
He might be Hall of Fame in Japan, but not quite. I don't think he's going to get that big support. I do hope that my buddy gets 5% and gets on the ballot again next year, but
not looking
let's
great.
be honest.
Yeah,
he was really good. He wasn't Hall of Fame.
Not looking great for his chances of staying on the ballot. He knows. We were joking about it a couple weeks ago when he was in town. He knows.
Okay, well, good.
He's not offended by the fact that he's going to fall off the ballot for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, do not be delusional, but be thankful that you were on the ballot.
His life is pretty good. He has other things going on. The one obviously that everybody's paying the most attention to right now on track, according to BBHOF Tracker, to be only the second player in history to get unanimous votes for the Hall of Fame. Your first-year eligible vote is Ichiro Suzuki.
Yeah, you can't argue with his worth, and his numbers would have been even more prolific had he not been, started in Japan. He started playing in the majors at 27, and what he put together was only a 10-time All-Star, 10 Gold Gloves, 10 200 hit seasons, and an MVP award. You know what? Him and obviously Mariano Rivera are the epitome of what a first ballot Hall of Famer should be. And I thought Cal Ripken was one of those too. He came really close to getting 100%, but some people had a problem with him playing all those games in a row. But regardless, if you don't vote for Ichiro, then hell, his name. He's just one of those. He was so good. He was just a single name.
Right.
Basically, people dropped the Suzuki from it. He was just Ichiro, and totally justifiable. Anyone who doesn't vote for him may have their reasons, but the numbers and his play was just exceptional.
I've had this list for a long time, Dave, of like my favorite baseball players that never played for the Baltimore Orioles, guys that I just loved watching. And Kenny Lofton was very high on that list, but with a bullet, number one to me is Ichiro. There is no baseball player ever that I enjoyed watching that had nothing to do with the Baltimore Orioles the way that I enjoyed watching Ichiro play the game of baseball. Just everything he did right. Like it's spectacular player. So
and interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lofton, also speedster. Suzuki or Ichiro grounded a deep short, and that was a base hit.
Yep, correct.
If I had back in the day when he was at his peak, you always say if you could have one guy bat at the plate with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, I wouldn't take a slugger. I'd take Ichiro because that guy found a way to get on base. His speed was amazing. And how fun to watch in the outfield and at the plate.
And that arm. God, that arm, man.
Yes.
That was spectacular. So then the big question, Dave, did you vote for Oriole spring training legend Felix Hernandez? Did you? Legendary Oriole Felix Hernandez, did he get your vote?
He did not. To be honest with you, I almost forgot that he was an Oriole when I was thinking about it. But, King Felix, he never did win 20, which was my knock on our buddy Mike Messina until he did win 20.
And you've still never voted for him, you jerk. Still never.
And look, lifetime 3.42 ERA. He just he was very good, and ultimately someone, and maybe even myself, might consider him down the road. He did win a Cy Young, but a 3.42 lifetime ERA, and he had very good numbers, but certainly not first ballot Hall of Famer. And I would think a lot of my peers would agree with that assessment. He'll stay on the ballot for sure. Down the road, King Felix may get an eye, but 169 total wins for his career. That's okay, but again, not first ballot for me.
So you don't vote for the Orioles legend, but you do vote for a Yankees legend. I don't know how I feel about any of this.
Orioles killer.
Yeah, right. I think there's very little controversy in the idea of voting for CC Sabathia. That seems like a slam dunk to me.
Well, he was a man. I don't know. I mean, he was the Yankees ace. He was the Indians ace. He was one of the best pitchers of his generation, and that's the way I looked at it. His lifetime ERA of 3.74, not the best, but 251 and 161. That's a more than a 600 winning percentage. And yes, sometimes the wins, you shouldn't judge a pitcher by wins necessarily, but if you needed a victory, you'd put CC on the mound, and more often than not, particularly when he faced the Orioles, he would deliver that victory. I do believe, and I like his personality a lot. I like a jolly fat man because I am a jolly fat man. So I can totally relate.
I don't know if that's going to be what they put on his plaque, but I appreciate you.
You know what? I bet you he'd take it. Although
he's lost
really
a lot of weight.
Down now.
Yeah, he's lost a lot of weight, no doubt, man.
Yeah, if you see it, I mean, hey, you know what? It usually goes the opposite way. You retire and you get fat. He retired and he got thin. But I thought he was a super pitcher, one of the best of his generation, 6-time All-Star, Cy Young winner. I don't feel any I can't second guess myself on that pick.
All right, so 4 votes this year from Dave Ginsburg. They go to Billy Wagner, they go to Carlos Beltran, they go also to Ichiro Suzuki and to CC Sabathia. That is the 4-man ballot for Dave Ginsburg. Gins, you reference obviously the guys that dropped off your ballot, and then we just talked about Felix Hernandez. Was there anyone else? I'll point out that next year the list of first-year eligibles is not overwhelming at all. Cole Hamels, Ryan Braun. This is not a strong first-year class. Nick Markakis is in that conversation for you to let another Orioles legend down. But is there anyone else that you be looking at that you could find yourself saying, I might want to continue, like a Dustin Pedroia type, perhaps? Is there anybody else of that group that you've looked at and said, I'm not there yet, but I could see myself continuing to evolve in this conversation?
As Glenn, I must compliment you. You do your studying, and your questions are excellent. I really tip of the cap to you. And I did look at a lot of these guys, and believe me, I checked the stats on almost everyone. And for instance, like I said, with Francisco Rodriguez, that was a pretty solid player. But guys like Pedroia, I would think of him down the road. He was the epitome of grit for the Red Sox, and I appreciate grit. But he was also he wasn't a super player. That's all. I mean, he was really, really good. Certainly, I think down the road I'd look at him as his time on the ballot goes longer. But maybe not. Those other 2 guys I told you about, Vizquez and Andrew Jones, who spells his name really weird, and I'm not talking about Jim. You know what? Particularly given what's coming up next year, I think those guys will go on, and I might again give consideration to Rodriguez for his another, by the way, famous ex-Oriole. So don't go bad on me.
That's a good point. That is a good point. Legendary former Oriole Frankie Rodriguez. Speaking of Rodriguez, I don't know if we talked about A-Rod. Would you ever consider A-Rod while he's on the ballot, or is that always going to be a non-starter for you?
That's always going to be a non-starter.
Okay.
It wasn't. He didn't just get busted once, but repeatedly. He was not a team player at all. He was a me first guy. The only thing good about A-Rod were his numbers, and to me, those were extremely tainted. Missed an entire year because of steroid use or performance-enhancing drugs, whatever you want to call it. I cannot envision myself, barring a complete change of heart, putting on my ballot. And I know I'm not alone in that thinking.
All right, there you go. That is Dave Ginsburg's Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. I'm trying to figure out who was it, whose group of supporters was always coming after you every year. Was it Larry Walker? There was somebody whose group of supporters was always inflamed every year, and I can't remember exactly who it was.
Braves. They're going to get after me for Andrew Jones being left off. The Atlanta fans are very emphatic about following their guys and getting the votes. And for some reason, Glenn, this stuff gets out there, what I said, and I must have said something. I will probably have said something derogatory about Andrew Jones, and they'll slap me down. But, I can take it.
All right. Very, very good. Dave, I always appreciate it. Really, it does mean the world to me that you continue to choose to do this with me every year. It's funny. You are living the exact life that I'm hoping that at some point I'll be living, where I'm just going to the Palm for lunch and going on vacation, and then every now and then mixing and going to a game or something like that. I'm hoping
thank you, Glenn. It's really super. I mean, I've retired, but still do the Ravens and O's games, and yes, lunch at the Palm and beautiful vacations. When you retire, buddy, 50 years from now, you'll do the same.
I tell you, when I do make it out to an Orioles game from now, it actually warms my heart when I get to see you, buddy, and get to have a conversation with you. So
back at you, Glenn.
Hopefully there'll be a few more of those this year. Love you, brother. Appreciate you. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
Deal. You take care now.
That's the great Dave Ginsburg with us here on GCR. I apologize. I'd said that Carlos Beltran was on his ballot last year. Thank you to not Mr. Tibbs. I was, honest to God, I was just reading Adrian Beltre as Carlos Beltran. That was the mistake that I made when I said that out loud. So, no, he does pick up a vote.
It's their fault for spelling your name.
Again, this is the strange part about the way that Gins votes. He had voted for Beltran 2 years ago, but not last year. So, when, like, the same way that he took Vizquel and Andrew Jones off the ballot. Like, that part of it, I have said a million times before, and Griffin really wants us to do this exercise tomorrow. I don't know if we'll have time because, again, Ravens-Bills week. We'll see where we are.
We'll do it right now, I guess.
No, settle down over there. We're not going to do it right now.
But I get to say my vote at some point.
You're so. Why is this something that you care about so deeply?
Because it's fun and it's baseball.
I guess.
And you get to talk about all these guys that some very worthy, obviously. When you get to the
we did it. We did it with the Football Hall of Fame, right? We did that with Drew.
I think we did it with Stannis.
I thought it was Drew that we did the Football Hall of Fame.
Okay, that we posted it, right?
Yeah, I think we did. So that's already on the record. So here's what we'll do. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll find the time. Like, tell Stan to be prepared. We'll find time tomorrow. I have said before, I am usually more of the Big Ten guy when it comes to the Hall of Fame.
You're
like
Big Ten guy? So
not
Nebraska
Big Ten
pitchers and
yes, correct.
guys
Specifically,
that went to Indiana
if you went to legendary Big Ten schools like Oregon, then I'll vote for you. You were a UCLA guy.
Yeah.
Like Jackie Robinson, the only reason he got in was because he was a Big Ten legend. No, I'm a Big Ten Hall of Fame guy. With for example, I don't think Harold Baines belonged in the Hall of Fame. And I hate the idea that somebody says, well, that's the standard. He was better than Harold Baines. Like, that doesn't work for me. But if there's a good argument, I tend to say I'll vote for him. And yes, for me, normally it's difficult. Like, I would vote for 10 players probably most every year because of that. I am not – and maybe that's why it's good to have Dave Ginsburgs of the world. Good to have voters that say, I don't think that it should be – the Hall of Fame should be the best of the best. I'm an Omar Vizquel guy, for example. I really am, because I think that part of the game matters. And we think of him as a zero offensively, but he wasn't. But clearly, and Dave voted for him last year, but not this year, he is nowhere close. Like, he is not winning over. He's at 12.3% of ballots this year. He finished at 17.7% last year. Now, I think there was an off-the-field thing.
There was.
There might have been an allegation that was made against Omar Vizquel that might have impacted him as well. Although I don't remember all the details. I just remember us having a conversation about that when we were talking about Omar Vizquel's Hall of Fame worthiness. There's no one that I'm losing my mind about.
There were domestic abuse allegations as well as a sexual harassment lawsuit.
Yeah, it's not great.
No,
it's not great. I don't know enough about it to know if that would change my I would have to read into that a little bit more to figure out if that would impact my feelings on whether I should vote for him if I was a voter. I'm not, so it doesn't matter. It's way easier for me when I know that my vote doesn't mean anything to say, I think Omar Vizquel is a Hall of Fame-worthy baseball player. But if I was an actual voter, I would want to dive more into that conversation and see how I feel about it. I remember Peter King years ago was roasted because, he said that voters shouldn't consider the allegations against Darren Sharper, which were pretty heinous. He was like, that's not the way it's supposed to work. We're supposed to only think about them as football players. And the point was dude, you don't have to make this stand. You could just say, I'm going to choose not to vote for Darren Sharper. I'm going to choose that I don't need to be the one, the righteous one, saying, no, I refuse. Sorry, it's match point, so I'm going to need to turn. This is wild, Jack. Wow.
You did it?
That is unbelievable. 19 years old.
Where's he from?
Lerner Tien. Well, he's an American.
Well, yeah,
He's
I know.
I believe he's from California, if I remember correctly. I'll double check that. But
this is look how tall Medvedev is than him.
Medvedev is taller than most of them, for what it's worth. Although Tien, I'm pretty sure, is only like 6 foot. Like he's
only 6 foot, yeah.
Well, actually, he's 5'11". He's not. He's Irvine, California. Yeah, man. This is wild. Now he did make he was a good junior player, but nobody saw this coming. This is unbelievable. Just incredible theater as Lerner Tien, the American, upsets Daniil Medvedev.
What was Medvedev ranked? He was like 4 or
for 5. So I don't remember. I mean, he's in top 5. I mean, that's
what were the? Do you know what the odds were before?
I have no idea.
I'll find.
I wasn't even considering the thought of betting Lerner Tien to beat Daniil Medvedev. Was not even a possibility in my mind that would be something that you would do.
Oh, it was plus 400. So Medvedev was only a minus 588 favorite.
That doesn't seem right.
The one I'm looking at Flash Score. They post the odds before it started, and that was what it has.
Doesn't seem right. That seems way too close. I mean, Medvedev had just played a 5-setter in his first match, but that doesn't seem right. Sorry, I just got completely distracted from the conversation that we were attempting to have about the Hall of Fame. All right, we'll do your dumb thing tomorrow
plus
if we
400.
have time. Yeah. If we have time. That doesn't feel right. That just doesn't feel right.
Medvedev's falling off. That's what they're saying.
I mean, he was just in the Australian Open final last year.
Well, they shouldn't have let what's his face come so close. Yeah, so I guess that's why, because there weren't even odds on the last match when he Samrej. He was plus 5. You could bet on him at plus 5,000. You could not bet on Medvedev as a favorite.
So that's a weird. That doesn't. I don't know what to make of that, because you can always bet somebody.
I mean, I guess someone somewhere, but
yeah, that's I don't know. I don't know what to make.
Spot
of.
I'm looking did not have.
I have no idea what to make of those odds. Anyway, yeah, 19-year-old Lerner Tien defeats Daniil Medvedev in a match that went to 2:54 a.m. in Melbourne, and so it's a very cool win for the young American. All right, when we come back in, it's all Ravens-Bills. We did some other things in the first hour. Now we're changing everything. All Ravens-Bills. Zay Flowers not on the practice field yesterday. That's a bummer, but not unexpected. What it means, I'm still operating as though Zay Flowers will not play on Sunday. It would take something if somehow he was on the practice field today, obviously you'd feel a lot different. But I have been operating all week with the idea that he's not going to play until
if he's limited Friday,
yes. I think if he gets on the practice field at all this week, then he's playing. I think if he doesn't get on the practice field at all this week, there's still an outside chance. I don't think John Harbaugh was lying about that on Monday when he said it's possible he could not practice all week and still play. This is, for certain guys, you can give them a chance. You can say, if you want to go out and test it before the game on Sunday and see if you might be able to go, then go for it. And I was to understand they were willing to consider that with Zay Flowers last week. They just realized by Thursday that wasn't happening. But if they get to a place where he says, look, I'd like a chance to test it on Sunday, then they'll test it. But at the moment, I'm assuming he's not going to play. He was the only Raven that wasn't on the practice field yesterday. That is the good news on that side of it. And we still don't know whether they might activate Deontay Hardy and let him try to return a punt, because they can't do that. But we'll have to see if that ends up being.
Do they
get
to the point where they don't put anyone deep, or
I mean, depending on where the kick is, I think there's certainly a possibility of that. All right, lots to do in the 11 a.m. hour. Tracy Wolfson's going to join us. Steve Wyche is going to join us, and our buddy Gordon McGuinness from Pro Football Focus will join us next as we continue along here on a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we move into the 11 a.m. hour here of the program. A lot of Ravens-Bills to get into this hour. I spent all that time on Diontae Johnson yesterday. I really have no interest in talking about him any further today. There's obviously no problem with the Ravens putting in a claim for Diontae Johnson, knowing he's not going to be around until the end of the year. It costs them nothing. It hurts them in no way. The only issue I had yesterday was with the internet trying to make it seem like it was some sort of brilliantly savvy move. As we discussed, with all due respect, the likelihood of a team, after everything that unfolded this year, saying, we're going to sign Diontae Johnson before May, have him impact our compensatory draft pick formula, is very far-fetched. Now, I get it. Some teams are just going to throw compensatory picks out of the water and just sign a bunch of players because they have to. So there's that, very small chance that one of these teams that signs 6 guys just says, hell, we'll sign Diontae Johnson too. It's not impossible. It still seems unlikely. Diontae Johnson at this point looks like the guy that's going to be waiting around for a team, and somewhere in June or July, someone's going to say, all right, let's give him a shot. We'll bring him in here at a deal that doesn't cost us anything. It appears as though a world in which Diontae Johnson is getting the type of guaranteed money that definitely gets you, and at a time during the process that gets you a compensatory pick. As Kevin Garnett once said, anything is possible.
Possible is nothing.
Right, impossible is nothing. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah. Impossible is nothing. But, boy, are we stretching it. We are reaching to try to make this somehow brilliant, or, this is the Ravens playing chess while you guys are playing checkers. The Ravens thought it was so important that they were willing to just let him go. This doesn't cost us anything. He's not going to be on the team. There's a 1 in a million. There's no downside. there's not really any upside, but there's definitively no. It's like one of those. The benefit is 0.000000001, but that is technically greater than the cost, which is hard zero. So, okay, it's basically a nothing, more or less a nothing. And the Diontae Johnson of it is fascinating. Like, what does his career have in store for him? My gut tells me he's looking for a team in June, July, and somebody's saying, dude, there's not going to be guaranteed. You got to earn this. But it is the NFL, and, you always get excited about the possibility of certain guys being free agents, and then by the time you actually get to free agency, you look at the wide receiver crop, talk for a living.
Close.
And you say to yourself, just flip a couple of letters. Look at the wide receiver crop, and you say, ooh. So, maybe, but it's really hard for me to say that. So, it's just in context, that's all. There's certainly nothing wrong with what the Ravens did yesterday, but trying to pretend like it's brilliant or, stop. We're just saying words now. That's all we're doing, is just saying words for the sake of, saying them. They don't actually have meaning. Would you, if you didn't root for the Ravens, if you rooted for another team, would you have any interest in paying any money to Diontae Johnson?
Maybe $1.50.
Yeah, thank you. $3.50. I got 5 on.
I'll give him a burger every day.
Just something like along those lines.
Yes, works for the team.
Any amount of money that would translate into a compensatory draft pick.
Yeah. Probably not.
No.
How much does it have to be?
I was trying to find that yesterday. What was the lowest contract that? And I just didn't have enough time to really dive into it. Like, what was the smallest contract that translated into a compensatory draft pick? And I don't. Again, I would have needed a few more minutes. This is one where the ADD kicked in. Where you're just like, nope, I don't care enough about this to spend any more time worrying about this. This is all I'm gonna do on this one. Sorry. What?
Yeah, maybe. No.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm running into the same.
That's
thing.
the problem. It's not like if you do 2 Google searches and you haven't found it yet, and then maybe you run over to one of those AI things. Then you realize when you run into an AI thing, they're basically just doing a Google search. If you know how to Google search, AI ain't helping you. They're just doing the same thing that you're doing. That's it. AI for the most part, unless you're trying to do something more complicated, like, can you show me a picture of Donald Trump if he were a cat? Okay, that AI can help you with.
Ooh, I do kind of
Google. Yeah, no, stop. Google searches
Grok's
can't.
been good this week.
Stop it. Not something that I'm looking for. All right. So yeah, there. I've handled the conversation about Diontae Johnson as much as I possibly can, given the fact that it really does not matter. Genuinely does not matter. But that's what it is. Ravens going to be wearing all white. They announced this morning for the game on Sunday night. For those of you that think that has any impact whatsoever, then there you go. They're going to be wearing all white on Sunday night. And then
I like these cats, says Donald Trump.
What?
I like these cats.
What are you doing?
He's got the little comb over and he's wearing a tie. And it's an orange cat.
Can't find me the contract.
I can't do that.
The thing that that would be
but
helpful and beneficial to the show.
Should I just tweet this?
No, don't. You want to do it from your account?
Oh yeah,
do whatever you like.
Obviously from my account.
From your account, fine. Definitely not.
All right, it's off. Everybody go check it out. Jesus. Blame Glenn. It's Glenn's fault. Kind of. What about?
Congratulations to Haloti Ngata. Haloti Ngata will be inducted to the College Football Hall of Fame later on this year. Oregon legend that was announced yesterday. The bummer of the College Football Hall of Fame induction is that another year where Ralph Friedgen is not included on the list. And look, I understand the problem that Ralph Friedgen faces and that his raw wins and losses numbers don't scream at anyone. Got to be a Hall of Famer. But as we've talked about with a few guests over the years, and as Heather Dinich, to her credit, has done as much as she can to try to point out, wins and losses at Maryland aren't the same as wins and losses everywhere else. And that winning 10 games at Maryland basically be like winning 18 at Alabama. And that's the part that it's really hard to explain to anybody about. And you also don't really know enough about the process for Ralph Regent's candidacy. But, yes, congratulations to Haloti Ngata. He's going into the College Football Hall of Fame. All right, Ravens-Bills on Sunday night. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Pro Football Focus's PFF's awards were announced this week. Always a pleasure for us to be joined by our friend, Mr. Gordon McGuinness, right here on GCR. Gordon, it's Glenn. It's good to catch you up. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Gordon, I imagine they're probably, by the time, knowing the way that you guys do things, I can't imagine there was a whole lot of controversy ultimately in Lamar Jackson being PFF's choice for MVP this year.
There wasn't a huge amount. We did, obviously, from Bills fans, we got a lot of pushback, which I think is what a lot of the narrative is going to be this week. There wasn't a whole lot of disagreement between the guys that voted. So I think we had like 28 of our guys who either grade games or kind of write content and things for us. And it wasn't unanimous for Lamar, but he was the overwhelming winner.
I ask this way. Is it as simple as he was the highest graded, this is the system that we believe in, and so at this point, if you're part of what we do and then try to turn around and spin it and say, yeah, but my eye test says this, it would be kind of silly based on the way that we do things here?
A little bit. So what I would say about the grades is that there is always context to apply to them. So if you take our award for the best overall player rather than just MVP, we didn't give that to Jordan Mailata of the Philadelphia Eagles, who actually has a higher overall grade than Lamar, because he missed 5 games this year. So despite the fact that he had an overall higher grade, and if you look at the games that Mailata missed, it was against some of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So you take that little bit of context and say, hey, maybe he wouldn't have had as high a grade without those things. I think the Lamar thing as well is there are parts about Lamar's game that even at PFF we can't quantify. And I think you saw a big part of that in the game on Saturday, like this Derrick Henry long touchdown run.
Where 3 defenders are going with
the gravity of that. And a big thing that I've pushed for the reason why I think Lamar Jackson's the MVP this year is take all his passing efficiency, and you can very much make the case that he's been the best passer in the NFL this year. But you also look at the fact that Derrick Henry's averaging half a yard more than he ever has per carry. And it's also half a yard more before contact per carry. So defenders are touching Derrick Henry half a yard further downfield than they ever have in a season before. And that is just the Lamar Jackson effect, because linebackers have to account for him more. It causes them to be a little bit later. It allows Henry to get more of a head of steam up. So there's all those little things that I think just go into making him the most valuable player in football.
I want to get into that as we shift the conversation towards Ravens-Bills on Sunday, Gordon, because I saw a tweet that you sent earlier this week that said 107 of Derrick Henry's 186 yards last night came on 4 carries. The other 22 carries went for 79 yards. The Steelers seemed determined to try to slow Henry down, but 1, it allowed Lamar to carve them up as a runner early, and 2, they couldn't prevent the chunk plays from Henry. And as we transition now moving forward to the Bills, it feels like somebody might say, hey, what you did last week, that was your strategy in part. Zay Flowers isn't on the field. And I'm starting to think Zay Flowers isn't going to be on the field this week. But to me, even if he is, I can't fathom the Ravens changing their strategy. And we saw it in Week 18 against the Browns, like how, particularly against the Bills, and given that they're not the most physical up-front defense. But I would think about against anyone at this point, it's going to be a steady diet of Derrick Henry, and we're going to dare you to have to try to do this 4 quarters and assume that, there'll be plays where you get stops and you feel like you have it under control, and then he's going to break one off for 20 yards, and you're going to start to get dispirited.
That's very much it. And I think if you look back at previous iterations of the Ravens offense, when everyone's big criticism has been that they've fallen behind and then got away from the running game in the playoffs, think back to the AFC Championship game last year. The biggest difference between that Ravens roster and this one is that they didn't have a running back that could break off those long carries. And they didn't have a running back that you could say, we've ran the ball 15 times and we're only averaging 4 yards per carry. this isn't working. We're not going to be able to get some big plays here. Derrick Henry now, you can run him 20 times a game, and yeah, they might hold him to 4.5 yards per carry for those. But if you keep running him, at some point he's going to break that into a 30, 40, 50-yard run. And that, I think, has a huge impact there. And also how efficient Lamar Jackson has been. He's the best passer in the NFL, or the best quarterback in the NFL in obvious passing situations this year. That means that, okay, maybe you do get into a 3rd and 5 situation, but you feel good about that because you think Lamar's going to be able to make that play. So I think there's a lot more about the Ravens roster this year that allows them to not get away from the run in the same way as they have in the past.
Gordon McGuinness from PFF is with us here on GCR. Gordon, with all that being said, it seems like, again, uniquely, this is the matchup. And I don't know what's going to happen in the football game because it's a football game. And whatever we say, the ball bounces a certain way. But it really does seem like this is the matchup that Derrick Henry is almost most built for in the postseason, is up against the Buffalo Bills.
I think so. And I think similar, if the Ravens get through this week and they go on the road to Kansas City, it's also for that type of matchup, right? Like this is the reason why the Ravens went out and made this move, is because they wanted to have that running back that they could rely on. But in particular against that Bills team where on the interior of their defensive line, they haven't been great against the run this year. I think they are a better team against the run than they were in week 4 because Matt Milano's back and he's a better linebacker, especially the last couple of weeks of the season. He's been a big thing for them. But the Bills are going to go lighter. They really trust Teron Johnson as a run defender. They're going to go lighter. They're not going to be forced into base defense. The Ravens are probably going to use 6 offensive linemen a lot, just like the Bills will do on their offense. And that does just set up for a very steady diet of Derrick Henry in this game.
On the flip side, Gordon, what is it that the Bills, what is their roadmap offensively? Because it's just been all so much. I don't think it's similar. I don't think they want to give the ball to James Cook 30 times, anything like that. What is their roadmap to all of the success that they've been able to find offensively? And is it maybe, again, a bit more beneficial to the Ravens because it seems like their biggest vulnerability is outside the numbers and Russell Wilson moonballs and Brandon Stevens, but I don't know if that's necessarily what the Bills are best suited to take advantage of.
I think it's one of those things where Josh Allen is so good at what he does, and his ability to bait pass rushers to kind of overstep and get caught, and then he can drift outside them and find open players. And just how good he is running the football becomes a big part of it. And there's also the fact that their offensive line has been really good this year as well. The biggest concern I think I would have if I was the Ravens is that those outside the number, those jump balls, if this is a game and it looks like it is going to be cold, maybe a little bit windy, and the passing game becomes less about precision and more about just throwing the ball up there, how much are the Bills going to target Brandon Stevens with, say, Keon Coleman, who is 6'4", I think. Throw the ball up for him, and maybe Keon Coleman catches the ball. Maybe Brandon Stevens commits pass interference. But I think there is a legitimate concern that if it is that type of game, that might be the direction that the Bills attack. Because I think if you look back to that Week 4 game, there wasn't that much data on Brandon Stevens' struggles this year. Everyone's talking about it now. All the national people, talking about the fact that if there's one weakness on this Ravens defense right now, it's Brandon Stevens. So it feels like the Bills might be more primed to attack that this week.
Is there anything the Ravens can do about that, or is it just this is your guy, you have to hope for the best?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to hope for the best a little bit. I think they went and got Tre'Davious White to see if he would be any better. He's been okay when he's played, but still not anything sensational out there. So I think they just have to ride with it. With Brandon Stevens, he is always so sticky in coverage. He just really struggles to play the ball in the air. So it is within the realms of possibility that he could go into this game. The Bills could target him 7-8 times down that sideline, and he manages to just be in just good enough position that it prevents catches. But yeah, I think this is one of those things whereby this is who the Ravens have been on defense. They're going to have to ride it out and just see where they are, because the Ravens don't switch sides with their cornerbacks. So they are exposed if the Bills decide that they are going to leave Keon Coleman on that side the whole game. that's pretty much how the matchup's going to go.
We talk a lot about, how difficult it is for edge rushers trying to go up against Lamar Jackson, and you think that you might have him in good position, and boy, we've seen that from a bunch of different guys this year, just how flabbergasted Trey Hendrickson was when he thought he had him bottled up. It's a different type of runner, Josh Allen. How difficult is it for a rush that has found life? Like, this was an area of the team that we were all very concerned about, Gordon, but obviously Kyle Van Noy ended up having a spectacular season. Odafe Owe into double-digit sacks. What is the unique challenge for rushers of going up against Josh Allen?
In terms of a runner at the quarterback position, he has that power running style that is not quite what Cam Newton was, but it's in that same range. And that's so difficult for pass rushers themselves. It doesn't change it a whole lot, other than his power might allow him to kind of break away. But where it becomes a real big challenge is for your guys at the second level, your linebackers, your defensive backs. Josh Allen is bigger than a lot of those guys, especially the guys in the secondary. And that's just something that, especially when it's cold, if he takes off, he's not an easy guy to bring down. And I think that's what he brings in the running game that's so special.
Yeah, he is a load, man. Like, there is no question about that he is a load. We'll bring up the fact that the Bills are undefeated at home this year. And so a lot of people will say, well, they're just so used to being able to play in these frigid conditions. Well, not all of these games, obviously, they play are in frigid conditions. Is it as significant as it would seem to be that the Bills are undefeated at home? Or maybe does that have as much to do with, like, obviously the AFC East teams are not going to be any great threat to them. Like, what do you make of the significance of their record at home this season?
It's probably somewhere in the middle between really important and not remotely important.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Ravens would be more comfortable favorites if this game was in Baltimore. The fact that it's in Buffalo, the fact that the Bills fans can be loud, and also just the conditions are a little bit different, a little bit colder, a little bit worse than it would have been for the Ravens of Baltimore. So I think it matters. But there is the fact that they had an AFC schedule. So they did play 3 poor teams at home that helped that record along a little bit. So it's one of those things whereby it definitely matters, and I think it matters in terms of the context of this game being a little bit more difficult for the Ravens. I just don't think it is necessarily a be-all and end-all.
Is there any other storyline or matchup part of this game on Sunday? As you would imagine, all we've been talking about is quarterbacks, right? Like, it's gotten basically every breath nationally and locally. But is there any other that we haven't brought up that you do think kind of matters going into Sunday night?
I think for me, the big thing is just how the Ravens' defensive changes from that Week 4 game match up against the Bills' offense now. So if you look back at the first half of the Ravens season, the defense was bad, but the kind of outlier good game there was the Buffalo game. Marcus Williams didn't play terribly in that game. They didn't give up a ton. And against the Steelers, they were still doing some exotic things up front to try and confuse things. If they continue to do that against Josh Allen, I think that helps them. A lot of what helped their defense get better down the stretch was simplifying things a little bit. There is a concern that you simplify things a little bit too much, and against someone like Josh Allen, he is then able to take advantage of that, right? Like, if you're sitting back and leaving things, he will find holes and gaps in that defense. So just how they use Kyle Hamilton, are they going to stick to that mainly deep role for him, or is this the game that they try and bring him up and they try and cause some other issues for the Bills defense? That's the thing that I find fascinating here.
That is fascinating, right? Like, obviously it was a problem for most, but you're right. This was the one game where the Ravens where their defense was a disaster, but they got the job done, and that'll be interesting to see how they go about doing it. Gordon, what all can we plug for you, my friend?
Yeah, just if everyone heads to pff.com, you'll find, as you said, our awards there, some analysis for the games this week, and for anyone that's looking ahead to the draft, our mock draft simulator is ready to go.
Yeah, I noticed that you are not bullish about the quarterback help being found in the draft this year.
Yeah, so it's Trevor Sikkema, who's our lead draft analyst. So I'll defer all that to him. But this definitely seems like a quarterback class that is not not the same as last year.
That's right. I kind of look at all these teams that need quarterbacks, and I'm like, where are you finding your quarterback help? Like, I understand everybody in Pittsburgh is like, if had it up to here with Mike Tomlin. I'm like, right, but where are you getting a quarterback? Like,
Yeah.
how are you so you switch coaches? Great. Now tell me how you're solving your actual problem, because I am just not seeing that. It is rough. PFF, of course, _ Gordon, right? Did I say that right? It's PFF _ Gordon?
That's
Yeah,
right.
what
Yeah.
I thought. That's how you can follow him. Gordon McGuinness, always appreciate you, man. Let's talk again real soon. Thank you for doing this morning.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Gordon McGuinness from PFF with us here on GCR. Yeah, I noticed, and I thought it was his. I didn't realize it was Trevor Sikkema who put it out. But like the mock draft that he posted doesn't even have the two quarterbacks that we all assume are going in the top 3 picks in the first round.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. No quarterbacks in the first round for PFF's mock. And, like, it is hard to figure out, like, if you're the Titans and you're the Browns and you have to have a quarterback, somebody would say you could have these. There are, legitimate top-notch talents. Like that, their mock has Abdul Carter from Penn State as number 1 pick, and then Travis Hunter at number 2. Tet McMillan from Arizona is number 3. And you could say these are surefire. You've got special football players if you draft these guys. And it's easy to say that. But then the Browns would turn around and say, well, we've had one of those for a very long time. His name is Myles Garrett. Perhaps you've heard of him. And what do we have to show for that? How has that helped us to have Myles Garrett? Shrug emoji. Because we haven't had a quarterback. We'll come back in. Tracy Wolfson will join us. She'll, of course, be on the sideline in Buffalo. We'll try to get her tips on staying warm on Sunday night. We'll do that next. This is Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Pressbox's Project Game Day is the place to be after every game this season. Join Glenn Clark, Rita Hubbard, Super Bowl 35 champion Femi Adebayo, and our cast of regulars as they break down what happened, why it mattered, and what it means moving forward. You can watch the show at PressBoxOnline.com/gameday or Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Project Game Day is brought to you by the Green Turtle Sportsbook in Towson and Canton, Easy Pass, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. So join us for Project Game Day after every game day this football season at PressBoxOnline.com/game day.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their amazingly scrumptious, fat, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. Every season is crab season at Costas, so make your plans now by calling 410-477-1975 and reserve your taste of heaven. Sit back, crack some crabs, and watch the Ravens chase down another title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday nights, Costas offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30, and there are nightly specials Monday through Friday. So head on down to the Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in Maryland. But don't worry, protection is within arm's reach. Protect your health with this year's COVID-19 and flu shots. It's safe and convenient to get them both at the same time. Flex your protection. For more information, visit health.maryland.gov/vaccines.
This message paid for by the Maryland Department of Health.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
Some sad news this morning from the world of baseball. Bob Uecker has passed away, and Bob Uecker, an absolute icon in the sport. You'll hear me, and I don't even think I have the phrase exactly right, but you'll hear me use the quote, they don't call him the best color analyst in baseball for nothing, regularly when I get a less
whenever
than,
I speak, usually.
Whenever I get a less than dynamite tip in from someone. It's just one of a kind, man. And look, I say it's sad news, obviously. Bob Uecker lived an unbelievable life. I mean, an incredible life, and continued to broadcast into his 90s, which is amazing. But safe home Bob Uecker, as he passed away today at the age of 90. Ravens-Bills coming up Sunday night in Buffalo in the AFC divisional round, and it's on CBS. That means our next guest will be on the sidelines, somehow braving what will be single-digit temperatures on Sunday night. She is, of course, the great Tracy Wolfson, and she is back with us this morning here on GCR. Tracy, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, thanks for having me, and thank you for reminding me how cold I'm going to be on Sunday. I got really lucky this past weekend in Buffalo. It was like 33 and sunny.
Yeah.
I was like hot in the second half, and now, just the way I'm going to be freezing down there, but I'm ready to go.
I was going to say, what is your go-to for folks here that are making the trip up? Like, it was cold in Baltimore on Saturday night, but not like this. What would be your best piece of advice for fans that are maybe making the trip up to Buffalo that are going to be out in the elements all night on Sunday night? If you had one piece of advice for them, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's all about keeping your feet warm. That's the key. And you can use it. It's as simple as putting those foot warmers just on the bottom of your sole. Those things work great. I usually do a double sock, foot warmers in between. But keeping your feet warm, maybe a lined shoe is key. And then keeping your face warm, because that's also the hardest part. So a scarf or a balaclava, something like that, and layers. And you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Adrenaline will take over.
That's true. At some point, there is no doubt that's the way that it will go. Tracy, obviously, and we were talking at the gym about it yesterday, I know that the topic here in Baltimore and Buffalo and all throughout the country that is overwhelming to everyone is the quarterback conversation going into Sunday. Let's touch on it briefly, because I don't want to talk to you about other things, because this is a really important game that goes beyond just the two quarterbacks. This does shape up to be everything that we could ask for in a mano-a-mano football conversation. Is there any world in which too much of the focus is on the quarterbacks, or do you get the sense that this really is going to be like an American classic that we could be talking about the way that we talk about like that Rams-Chiefs game from all those years ago on Monday night that we still think about to this day?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's about the quarterbacks, no doubt. And whoever comes out on top, it's the MVP talk. It's, who's the next guy in that progression of, top quarterbacks in the league. And that's huge. We know that storyline. But I actually think, there's so many other storylines, because ultimately, especially in a game like this and the weather like this, the run games are going to be so important for both of these teams. So it really might be James Cook and Derrick Henry. 199 yards the last time these two teams played, Derrick Henry had. Now, I understand it's a different defense that Buffalo has out there, missing a lot of guys. Certainly a different defense than the Baltimore Ravens have, playing much better since week 11. But I think it comes down to who can stop the run, because in these elements, that's what you're going to do. And it's really difficult to tackle.
Yep.
And to me, those two guys are going to be key. And certainly, of course, the quarterbacks fall into that, because they both can run with the football. We know that.
Yep.
But I think ultimately it comes down to which team can run the football successfully against the other, and the other's defense.
You were in Baltimore, obviously, for last year's AFC Championship game. And the story of that game, to take nothing away from the Chiefs, had a lot to do with the Ravens kind of shooting themselves in the foot and getting away from running the ball. Given what we've seen, given the fact that they got Derrick Henry, too, given how well it's worked and what we saw last week and then even in week 18. Do you feel like confident that there's not going to be another world where the Ravens get away from running the ball at this point in the playoffs?
There is not going to be another world. I agree with you 100%. It's why they lost that game. It's why they go out and get Derrick Henry. Certainly also with the question mark surrounding Zay Flowers, even more they're going to need to run the football. I think they could do it in several different ways, but I don't see Todd Monken going away from that. I see that and the key is getting a lead. If Baltimore can get the lead and they can control the time of possession and they can run the football with long drives, that's going to be huge for the Baltimore Ravens and very difficult for Buffalo to come back from.
Tracy Wolfson is with us. Of course, she'll be working the broadcast Sunday night on CBS for Ravens-Bills. Tracy, as you all have been preparing, do you get a sense, like, I think that a lot of us have been trying to be dismissive of the fact that the Ravens, blew out the Bills earlier this year, and obviously in Buffalo they'd point out they had three of their best defenders that were missing. They didn't have Amari Cooper yet at that point. The Ravens, ironically, had a much worse defense at that point of the season, although they had a great game against the Bills. Does any of what happened in that game matter? Do you get the sense that, like, the Bills are trying to do things wildly different? Like, what do we make? Do we completely ignore maybe that the Ravens blew out the Bills early on this season?
I don't think you completely ignore it. I don't really love early season matchups. I feel like it was week 4. I feel like teams are still trying to, figure out who they are. I think, like you said, there were a lot of pieces missing, but certainly seeing teams in person, getting a feel, certainly for the Bills to get a feel for this offense and Derrick Henry, his size, his running ability, for their defense to see that, to feel that, certainly helps. I do think they were missing a ton of guys. I think Baltimore is different on defense as well. So I think you can take something away from it. And certainly there's a little extra edge knowing, you got kind of blown out against a team you're about to play. So that certainly gives Buffalo a chance to say, a little extra edge maybe. Not that you need an edge in this one, right? So for me, I don't put so much into that. But certainly they're going to go back and look at the tape and, see what they can take away from it.
There was so much made a week ago, Tracy, about, Lamar even acknowledging that he had been antsy at times in his playoff history. I feel like that there was a narrative that was built about Lamar as being a bad playoff quarterback that reflected so much on, like, 21-year-old, 22-year-old Lamar Jackson. Jaden Daniels is a rookie, and we're all raving about what he did as a rookie. He's 24 years old. Like, and I'm not trying to detract from him because I think Jaden Daniels is incredible, but I did get the sense that much of this narrative related to Lamar Jackson came at a time that most players are not even playing in the NFL in their lives. Does that go away, or does he still, like, does you feel like he still has some of those feelings going into this game? He has never beaten Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. It felt like that was huge for them last week, but do you still feel like there's a little bit of that antsiness, anything that would be interesting to you about Lamar Jackson going into this one?
I think you make a really good point of how young he was. And the maturation process, especially as a quarterback getting adjusted to the NFL, is different for everyone. Right. And maybe took him a little longer than some other guys that jump in. And also, it certainly helps with the team around you. And it really depends on the team around you, the coaching around you. All of that has to be perfect and right for you. And I think he's really matured. I've seen it, firsthand, in person, on and off the field. I love his honesty. And you saw that when he talked about the antsiness. And I think the first part of overcoming that is really being honest with maybe what was going wrong. And I think he has a really good handle on that. And certainly the addition of Derrick Henry, he talked about that, has allowed him to be a little less antsy, not feel like he has to do it all. Have someone else he can hand the ball off to and feel confident and maybe take the pressure off and the spotlight off. And I think that's really helped him. That narrative is there. He knows that. He talked to us early on in the season about the idea of that loss to AFC Championship has stayed with him the whole off season, and it will not go away until he wins one.
Right.
And that hunger, he talked about the hunger that's there and how bad he wants it. But I think this version of Lamar is so different than the past versions of Lamar that I've seen.
I agree. He looks like someone who's now much more comfortable with, when I'm on the field, I'm probably the best player on the field, and I should play like that. Like, I don't have to steal anything from anybody. I can just be Lamar Jackson, and that's normally going to be pretty good. The Bills haven't lost a game at home this year. They aren't all played in frigid conditions. Some of them are played in September, and believe it or not, it's not always 5 degrees outside in Buffalo. How difficult is it to win a playoff game in Buffalo? Is there a mystique to the weather that they're better prepared for that than other teams are? What do you make of that part of this?
I don't know about the cold so much. Baltimore's played in cold weather. I talked to Derrick Henry yesterday, and he talked about playing in -7 in Kansas City when he was with Tennessee. Like, they can handle the weather. And certainly as a running back, the harder thing to do is being tackled, right? It's to tackle in that weather. So I think it affects both teams and how both sidelines handle that, how prepared they are going in, how to keep themselves warm. But I think the biggest thing in Buffalo is the wind. And if the wind picks up, it's really difficult to throw the football. And if that is another reason to run the football and stick with the run in that type of condition. You're going to look up, and I don't know, I've seen a lot of different forecasts this week because, of course, I'm checking literally every minute. And, you see 10 mile per hour, 20 mile per hour gusts, 40 mile per hour gusts. Those winds, could be an issue, whether it's in the kicking game or just whether it's trying to throw the football. And I know in Hard Knocks, they went outside and they were in full wind throwing the football, and John Harbaugh talked about it with Lamar and how he looked good throwing the football and wind. But it's hard to really tell how that wind goes also in that stadium. It swirls around. You can't just look at a flag and see the direction. So I think if anything is a factor at Highmark, it's really the wind more than anything.
I think that was the last time the Ravens played the Bills in the playoffs. It was obvious the impact that it had. Justin Tucker, not the Justin Tucker this season that struggled, but like Justin Tucker at the prime of his career missed a couple of kicks, and it was hard to throw the ball, and it had a major impact. And I know the wind isn't maybe expected to be as crazy this time around, but yeah, it's still something to monitor. There's no doubt about it. All right, now, Tracy, I have to ask you the $1 million question, which has nothing to do with this game. It's, as a Michigan fan, when you get to Monday night, is it, hey, who cares? We beat Ohio State. Like, even if they – or is it still, no, it's Ohio State. I want them to lose every game that they play. I'm still just as rabidly rooting against them. There's no, well, sure, but at least we beat the national champion this year.
Yeah, it's the latter, no doubt. And you forget, it's not like Notre Dame's not a rival of Michigan's either, but it's the lesser of two. And so – you always root against Ohio State.
That's what I
but
figured.
No matter what, we can hold our head high knowing that we beat them again this year, and we won the national championship last year. So I think there's a little bit of that, but you never want to see the Buckeyes hoisting a trophy.
You still get to feel like you're kind of the big brother, even if they win the national championship.
We still are. Yes, we are. The fact that there's still conversation about firing Ryan Day, even though he has them in the national championship, says everything.
It is crazy. And then I did see on your timeline, so you're not sold completely on the Mr. Brightside thing. It does feel, I'm not willing to try to put it in like the Renegade conversation because like we've banned that song in Baltimore. But it does feel like there's something that's cool about it that like that's working in Buffalo.
It's fun. It's something they're rallying around. I get it. I have to be honest, it wasn't like I was there last week and the players are singing along, but it wasn't like being at Michigan Stadium when Mr. Brightside plays, where the whole stadium knows every word and has been singing it for years. This is relatively new. I maybe could I'm singing along, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it just feels weird to me. I'm not really sure, but it's great for them. They can have their own thing and, rally around it, but I don't know if I'm on board with it just yet.
All right, I can respect that. At Tracy Wolfson is how you follow her as always. And, of course, Sunday night, you're going to be watching. I don't need to imagine trying to sell somebody in Baltimore. You should watch the game. I think that's not going to be a problem. Sunday night, 6:30 for Ravens-Bills on CBS. Tracy, really appreciate you taking the time. Please stay as warm as possible during the course of the game.
Oh, thank you.
And we will hopefully.
I'll try. Thanks for having me, Ben.
No doubt. Thank you, Tracy. Hopefully be seeing another Tracy Wolfson game next week. If all things work out, hopefully there'll be another CBS AFC Championship game for the Ravens 1 week from now. I guess maybe it's sort of the similar conversation as like the Seven Nation Army thing. Like, do too many teams do the Mr. Brightside thing that like it just doesn't feel like nobody else is doing Renegade. Like, that is extraordinarily unique. That's one of the problems that I have when people complain about like Thank God I'm a Country Boy at Orioles games. I'm like, no, it's our thing. No one else is doing it. And still, it doesn't. You don't even know this. It has nothing to do with Baltimore, anything. But when he play it, people get up and they clap along and they participate in it, and it's a fun moment and it's unique to Baltimore. Whatever you feel about the song, whatever. I'm not even trying to sell you on the idea that it's the greatest song of all time. I just know that it's part of our sort of heritage as Baltimore sports fans. We stand up, we clap, we stomp our feet, we sing along, even if it makes no sense. Like, of all the places in the world to be talking about being a country boy, Baltimore, Maryland is not. It makes no sense.
There's some country in
way away.
Baltimore.
No, not in Baltimore. Not at all. Up by me, yes. That is a good distance. Not remotely. It makes no sense, but it's our thing, and we've had it. And instead of doing the same thing that 100 other people are doing, it's good to have your thing that's unique. Mr. Brightside is an easy sing-along song, right? Like, it's easy to get an entire stadium to sing along because it's a big karaoke song. As I've said before, we've missed the boat on this. It's not the Killer's song is all these things that I've done. It's perfect. It's one of the greatest songs ever made. Mr. Brightside's fine, but it's become the one.
All right, well, when you start a football franchise, that you can make that the song.
Imagine everybody. I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. Look, I'm not trying to suggest the Ravens get away from Seven Nation Army. Like, it worked. It's probably not as big. Like in 2012, it was you couldn't walk around town without someone trying to. It's certainly not the same thing in 2024, and nobody's really adopted anything else that's new or different or unique. Other places do it. I happen to the
Ravens thing is Real Fan Dan. He's the.
Well, I mean, but that's not a song.
No,
it's not the same thing.
Well,
one of the games
music.
One of the games on Sunday, they were doing Seven Nation Army as well. And I can't remember which game it was. One of the
Probably
games.
Philly? I don't know.
Maybe it might have been Philly.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, oh. Like, then it's a reminder that your thing isn't unique, and that's why that might become the problem. As she points out, they do it at Michigan. Now they're doing it with the Bills. Like, you always want to have that unique thing. Where do they do in Wisconsin? Yeah. It's legendary. Like, I literally, part of the reason why I wanted to go to a Wisconsin game was to be a part of that. Because I had heard for years, my buddy Tommy Knight, former Ravens cornerback, had coached at Wisconsin for a little while, and he was like, dude, you'll never see anything like it.
The flag at College Park.
It's fine. It's not the same.
At basketball games, it's...
I also happened to be there for the Wisconsin game where Everlast from House of Pain showed up and was there doing the jump around thing, and that was really cool. Now, the weather sucked, so it kind of put a damper on it. But then where do they do all the small things? There's somewhere, and like I can't remember. Is it Padres games where they do it? Like,
I guess that would make sense.
And then they cut out the audio, and then it's just the crowd singing along for a while. Say it ain't so, I will not. And like, that's unique and that's different. I'm always looking for unique. It's always good for it to be unique and different, and it's a little bit. Maybe it's a hockey team that does all.
Yeah,
the
wait a
small
minute.
things.
Is it the Avalanche?
That's exactly what it is.
I did not know that.
It's the Colorado Avalanche. That's exactly what it is, and it's crazy. Like, when they do it, that place goes insane.
They played in the third period, apparently,
and that place goes nuts. That's the renegade factor that you're looking for. You're looking for the thing that's unique to you, that everybody associates with you, and that becomes this like authentic moment.
In 2019, DJ Triple T, the Avalanche's in-house DJ, played it for the first time during a stoppage in the third period, and everybody loved it, and they never went away from it. So DJ Triple T.
Why did you tag me in this Donald Trump is a cat thing?
Well, because
why?
Because I wanted to thank you for it.
No, you're not getting any. If you were getting traction on it, it would make sense. You think I want to retweet it?
No, I know you want to.
No, I do not. I wanted you to find out what the smallest contract was that turned into compensatory.
Well, that was
pick.
more important.
You couldn't.
Obviously.
Today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone. Everything you need to know in high school sports here in the state of Maryland. Every score, every schedule, every team, everywhere in the state, private schools, public schools, and every sport. So obviously right now everybody's paying attention to basketball, but it's not just basketball. It's every sport. They've got you covered. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. All right, we continue to gear up for Sunday night, Ravens-Bills. Our next guest said, Buffalo weather? I'd rather be in Hawaii. After he spent his Saturday night in Baltimore. From NFL Network, he is our friend Steve Wyche, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Steve, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to chat with you. I bet you are just feeling awful for everybody that's got to deal with the weather in Buffalo this week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of it. I mean, it is what it is. It's their home field advantage. But, as I'm speaking to you, I'm in Honolulu for the Polynesian Bowl, the top high school all-star football game in the country, which we're going to broadcast on the network Friday at 9 Eastern. So have fun.
I'll be
thinking about everybody there.
Yeah, real tough. It's one of those things where I got to imagine as like a top reporter, you get your assignment and you're like, well, it's divisional round week and I should probably be at one of the big games. And then they say, well, actually, we'd like to have you in Hawaii. And you're like, you know what? That sounds pretty good too. I think maybe I could pass this week then.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind at all because, besides the whole scenic beauty of it all, we're seeing some of the guys who are going to be in the NFL in a couple of years. There's already been a ton of guys who played in this game, Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, guys like that who played in this game who are in the NFL. So that's also the good element of it, establishing relationships for the long
no doubt. No doubt about it. Steve, what did you learn from the Ravens in there? I know everybody's making so much about the other side of it and that the Steelers seemed lifeless, but I don't know, man. Like to me, that was because the Ravens put their necks on their throat or their boots on their throats. Like what did you learn from what you saw from the Ravens about what a threat they are in these AFC playoffs?
Well, I mean, that one, like you said, the Ravens beat the life out of them, right? It was a physical from the stretch. You heard Kyle Van Noy say, hey, the Steelers won the toss and decided to take the ball. Like, okay, you think you're that tough? Let's see what you got to deal with. But the other part, in talking to folks post-game, was how Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, really took familiar tendencies from the Steelers' defense and used them against them to help things, to help their offense function. For a prime example, and you saw the video once where T.J. Watt is tackling Derrick Henry completely on the other side of the ball, and Derrick Henry doesn't have the ball. Lamar pulls it and runs 15 yards down the field with it. Well, they recognized something with how the Steelers' edge rushers were playing the RPO option type game and said, okay, we're going to use that against them and Lamar pull it because they're really crashing down on the running backs. So I think that's something where Monken and the offensive staff, going into this game, we'll say, okay, what are some of the things that we're seeing that we can use against Buffalo? So the cerebral element of it, but more so the player execution of it. Like you can scheme your butt off, but if guys don't execute it, it doesn't work. And so the trust that they have in what they're doing and the trust they have in one each other as players to execute their own jobs, I think that's something where people should be very, very afraid of what the Ravens are doing and how they're playing.
I feel like the idea of let's establish Derrick Henry and let's run Derrick Henry, try to do it down their throats. It'd be easy to say, hey, well, you didn't have Zay Flowers. That needed to be the strategy. I kind of get the sense that's just what they want to be. Like, that's why he's here. He's here for January, and short of them falling behind by a good bit, particularly given what happened in the AFC Championship game, I get the sense that's what they want to do to any team they might face the rest of the way.
Well, I mean, if you have Derrick Henry, that's what you do. But, see, they've got Derrick Henry and Lamar.
Yeah.
Right, they've got Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. They've got your non-typical weapons in terms of between the hash mark type of playmakers. And Buffalo does as well, right? Buffalo doesn't have this great receiving crew. They're going to try and use their tight ends. They're going to try and use James Cook and Josh Allen. So that's where these teams are very similar, is where they hit big plays, not necessarily with the big pass or with razzle-dazzle, but with physicality and not necessarily from the big tailback. So, again, Derrick Henry is more of a closer. You see the one thing the Ravens, where he's just great is he's just a second-half killer. He just finesses you down. You saw some Steelers making business decisions, and they weren't the only team that have done that when it comes to Derrick Henry in the second half of games. And if the Ravens can do that against the Bills, which, it's going to be tough, then they're going to win that ball game.
Steve Wyche, NFL Network, with us here on GCR. Steve, I was just talking about this with Tracy Wolfson a few minutes ago. The narratives that have surrounded Lamar Jackson about the playoffs specifically, I am of the opinion that a lot of that was based on Lamar Jackson at the age of 21 and 22 when, again, most quarterbacks aren't even in the NFL. And because he was hurt for a couple of years, that we've just allowed that to stick. Now, he still has to prove that he can win a Super Bowl because that's just the way that it goes. Like, we define quarterbacks by whether they win Super Bowls or not. But I almost think it's insane that we were continuing to cling to the idea that he's a bad playoff quarterback as much as he's just not a guy that's broken through yet to win a Super Bowl. How much did you feel like that last week was important for him, as he had acknowledged the week before that he thought he had been antsy in playoff games, that just getting to a place where you don't have to be anything more than what you are, you're Lamar Jackson?
And that's a really good point. I'm glad he said that, because I don't look as Lamar Jackson being a shortcoming. I mean, I don't think the Ravens would be where they have been in previous years without him.
Right.
That's how I view it. And, it is interesting how we judge quarterbacks on Super Bowl wins. Hey, Joe Flacco, his mystique, he enhanced his mystique, so to speak, his aura by winning a Super Bowl. But when it comes to Lamar, look, I know how much John Harbaugh really wants this for him. I've had conversations with John on how Lamar has meant more to the organization, to him personally, and to the city than a lot of other players possibly could. And so, my whole thing, I don't judge, as someone who used to cover the NBA, I don't judge Lamar on not winning Super Bowls because Charles Barkley's one of the best basketball players I've ever seen. He just had to go up against the Michael Jordan. And that's where the Ravens are with the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar can come out and have the greatest game in the world. They still got to face the Chiefs, most likely in the following week. And that is where the real test is going to be. That's where the real breakthrough is going to be. And it might not come down to Lamar making plays. It might come down to the defense making plays. Everything has to work in a game like this where you have so many players involved in deciding the outcome of a game.
What do you make of the idea that the Bills will take Josh Allen not getting All-Pro, which probably means he's not going to end up being MVP, and they'll use that as fuel, and you'll get an even angrier, pissed-off version of the Buffalo Bills on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, you could. But, I mean, look, when it comes down to football, or any sport at this level, right, where you're trying to get to a championship, if players aren't motivated anyway, then you're not going to win it all. I mean, these guys play their butts off every game, but they'll use that as extra motivation. Like, okay, Josh is the real one. But that's more of a personal thing than a team thing. I mean, do you think some of their offensive linemen want to sit there and get whipped by Nnamdi Madubuike and Kyle Van Dyke? No, they're going to be playing their butts off because they don't want to be embarrassed either. So, yeah, that'll be some extra, incentive if you want to use it for them. But these guys play at a high level every time they're out there at this point.
What do you make of the matchup in general, Steve? Like, this is it strikes me, speaking of all pros, like the Ravens are loaded with them and the Bills are not. Like, I know the Bills have the better record and I know they had the two best wins in the NFL this season, but it does feel like on paper the Ravens are the overall more talented team. They certainly looked it, obviously, when they went and thrashed the Bills early on in the season in Baltimore. What do you make of the matchup in general on Sunday?
Yeah, look, we can sit there and talk about all pros versus non-all pros because some teams build rosters and some clubs build teams. And there's a difference, right? We see a lot of teams, a bunch of all-stars that don't play collectively well. The Bills play collectively well. The Ravens play collectively well. So when it comes to the overall matchup, I think it does come to the physicality. You saw the Bills last week against the Broncos just line up and mash them. Right, the Ravens cannot let that happen, and the Ravens front probably won't. They don't get mashed. But this is going to be what Buffalo tries to do. Both these teams are very successful on these 10-play drives where they wear you down, then all of a sudden hit the big play. So they're very similar in that regard. My big kind of swing vote going in is, can the Bills defense stand up to Baltimore doing that, just to hammer them with Lamar running, with Derek running, with Justice Hill running? Can that defense stand up to that for 4 quarters? And I think that's the bigger question going in. And if they can, then we're going to have one hell of a doozy.
You kind of referenced it earlier. Like, everybody in the country is looking at this game, and this is the game of the week and all that stuff. The Kansas City Chiefs still exist, and they're still sitting there with everything going through them the following week. And I know that we've talked all throughout the season about how they, seem a little bit more vulnerable this year. But, boy, weren't we having those exact same conversations a year ago? And don't they have a better pass-catching group on the field this year than they had when they went and won a Super Bowl last year? Are we somehow, and I can't believe that we're doing this as a country, but are we being too dismissive of the Kansas City Chiefs again this year?
Here's the thing. I don't think folks are being dismissive. I think there's just a fatigue, right? It's like they keep winning. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid on every other commercial that we watch on TV. Like, let's talk about somebody else for a minute. Let's highlight everybody else, because I do think there's kind of this subliminal, or maybe it's more overt, hope that somebody else gets there, right? A lot of people are like, we're sick of seeing the Chiefs win, just like we were sick of seeing the Patriots win. And when push comes to shove, it's like, hey, look, this is a great team. And the one thing that the Chiefs, when they were playing all those close games, were not doing, they weren't generating takeaways. Well, you go to that end of the season game, I think it's week 15 or so, against Cleveland, and all of a sudden they get 4 picks. Next week, they get multiple takeaways. And that's what their defense is starting to do, to give Patrick Mahomes those short fields. Then all of a sudden you see their point differential change. The fact that their defense is starting to take the ball away is opening up some things for them offensively with their pass catchers, with their run game, getting Pacheco going as well. And now they're getting healthier on the offensive line, which has been an issue all year. They are still the team to beat. And the fact that it runs through Arrowhead gives them another advantage.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. Like, it almost kind of terrifies me that they're just not getting as much attention this year, because they are that good. And then just to the other side of things, Steve, the 4 teams that are left playing, is there an argument that any of them, I know we all think Detroit and Philadelphia are the better teams, but I can't write off either Washington or Los Angeles like the way that we're all writing off Houston in the AFC. Is there can we make the argument that all 4 of them could come out of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, Detroit is a juggernaut, and the fact that offensively they can just personnel group you and scheme you up like no other team because they go for it on 4th down so much. They kind of play street ball, like, we're just going to go for it on 3rd and 15. We're going to run it for 10 yards. So now it's 4th and 5, and then we're going to do something, personnel group you and scheme you up and hit you for 10 yards and get a first down and go score. I think it's going to be very tough for Washington, especially if Detroit's defense plays like it has the past couple of weeks, taking the ball away, those guys in the secondary just being absolute ball hawks. But Jaden Daniels, man, he's got something to him.
Right.
And the fact they continue to win these close games late, right? They're not taking leads and hanging on. They're winning them late. They're a dangerous football team. On the flip side, if the Rams come out and play defense like they did the other night, like they did Monday night, that game against Philadelphia is going to be amazing. Because, Saquon Barkley ran for 225 yards on him earlier this year. That's not going to happen. I mean, they are a different football team. We'll see how the elements come into play with that. But, see, the Rams can play that bully ball. They can run with Kyron Williams. They can do some things with Puka Nacua in the passing game that kind of offset potential, cold weather. So this is going to be very interesting, because that front 4 for the Rams, all first and second year players, is no joke. I mean, that is an issue that must be dealt with. So I'm really intrigued by the NFC. I think it's a little bit more wide open than people think, like you're saying.
Let me give the local plug for the Polynesian Bowl. Zion Ely from St. Francis here in Baltimore is part of this game. Right now, as he joined us a couple weeks ago, he is saying he's committed. He's going to Maryland. I know everybody in the rest of the country doesn't believe it and thinks that is still going to change, but he says he's headed to Maryland. He is a hell of a football player, and he's part of the Polynesian Bowl. You said that's 9 o'clock tomorrow night on NFL Network, correct, Steve?
9 o'clock Eastern on NFL Network.
Make sure
Kamehameha School.
You check that out. At Wyche89, as always, is how you follow him. Steve, is there anything else we can plug for you, my friend?
Well, Sunday morning I'll be back in studio on game day preview, and you watch that on your fast streaming platforms on Roku, Peacock, Tubi, Pluto, places like that. Great show. With Mike Yan, comes on at noon Eastern time.
Very good. Steve, always appreciate you, man. Enjoy your time in Hawaii. Thank you for taking the time for us. We really appreciate it.
All the best. Take care.
Steve Wyche with us here on GCR. Getting up early. It's just 7 a.m. in Hawaii right now. Appreciate him doing that for us this morning. Very good of him. So many things that I want to react to. Yeah, so apparently Zion Ely said he's taking a visit to Auburn, and like Maryland fans are responding like, why would you be taking a visit to Auburn? I guess he had said that like he would still take official visits.
Yeah, free free trip.
Look, man, until signing day, Maryland fans are going to be terrified, because he's that type of prospect that programs are going to throw. But they're throwing millions upon millions of dollars at mid-level quarterbacks.
Well, they're quarterbacks.
I understand they are but like the money that Duke gave Darian Mensah.
That's an exciting player, man.
I guess.
He is.
I'm not trying to disparage Darian Mensah, but like, is he going to win the Heisman Trophy next year?
I wouldn't say.
No, he's not going to win.
Definitively, no.
Stop it.
How much is he to win it right now? We got to get in.
You go right ahead. You put your money down on Darian Mensah. Go right ahead and light that money on fire while you're not answering the questions.
All he's got to do is beat North Carolina, and he's thrown right into the.
Why? Because we don't even know if Bill Belichick is going to go to North Carolina.
He is.
Did you see that?
He's been on the recruiting trail.
Did you see the newest twist today?
I guess not.
He does not have a signed contract at North Carolina.
Oh.
So there is dispute. Apparently, this is not abnormal.
He is on the recruiting trail for it. So, I mean, it means he's
all well and
planning
good. All well and good.
This.
Zion Ely's planning on going to the University of Maryland.
And he's still would he still be the greatest coach in North Carolina?
I don't think Mac Brown was the coach at North Carolina.
Yeah, I know. But what did he do?
Yeah. Well, okay, fine.
Won a few bowls.
He did win a few bowls. I saw all this to say, apparently, like in this reporting, there is, it is not known if perhaps because he hasn't signed the contract, there actually wouldn't be a buyout. That if, for whatever reason, Tom Brady really kept pushing and pushing and pushing him, and ultimately he broke down and said, all right, I want to do it. Like, it might very well be the Raiders wouldn't even have to pay the $10 million. Some people have pointed out, too, that, like, Bill Belichick could just offer to pay the money out of his own coffers, particularly if the deal is that they hire his son. Like, that if, like, Bill Belichick could just say, it's $10 million, fine, I'll donate the $10 million I'll give you $10 million for the program if you hire my son.
Would it make more sense for him to just bring his son to Vegas then, or
you would think that
if nothing's signed, I don't know what.
But it also might very well be that like he's trying to parachute his son a job,
right,
and this is
his
chance to prove that he can be a head coach and
coordinator for an NFL team.
But he's been a coordinator. Was he a coordinator? Well, he was a coordinator at Washington, right?
Yeah, he was coordinator. Yeah, I don't think
was he not an NFL coordinator, just an assistant. Steve Belichick. No, you're right. Washington was the first place where he was a coordinator. So it's not nothing. I don't know what would be the better gig, but it might make it easier to get if Bill Belichick said it.
I played lacrosse at Rutgers.
I did not know that either. Yeah. I had no idea. How about that? I mean, we know Bill loves lacrosse, so I guess it's not all that surprising.
Maybe that's why that's why he's going to stick in North Carolina.
Is that what it is? Because he also wants to help with the lacrosse team? I don't know what that means. But yeah, a little bit of every day there's a new. It's weird that we're still to this point only one coach has been hired, and it's the one that we knew what was happening there on day one.
I mean, I
like
guess
no one else has hired a coach yet.
Because everyone wants Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and now Todd Monken.
Maybe, yeah. Todd Monken, I guess, is interviewing today with the Jaguars, and he has tomorrow with the Bears. So
is this the last Todd Monken game on Sunday?
It could be. It could be. I hope it's not.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. I hope there's a game the following week, even if he is going to leave ultimately, but it's totally possible. Hey, today's show has also been brought to you by the best of issue of Press Box, which I normally have right here in my hands, but we had a podcast recorded in here yesterday, and so we had to clean the desk off, and so it's not here. It's fine. It's fine. We can have it back tomorrow. It's probably in the corner. It's somewhere in there. I don't know what we did with it. Best of issue of Press Box is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, Lamar Jackson on the cover. Great story from Bo Smolka about what Lamar means to the community beyond just the football field. Go pick it up for free today at your neighborhood Royal Farms. You can read it all, pressboxonline.com/bestof. Can we go ahead? Is there anything we haven't covered? We need to.
Todd Monken get interviewed. Yeah, I guess that's it.
All right, let's do a tidbit then. Tidbit brought to you by the CIAA tournament.
That's right. Baltimore is welcoming the excitement of the Food Lion CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament once again to CFG Bank Arena from February 25th through March 1st. You can get your tickets now. They are available at Ticketmaster.com. Again, Ticketmaster.com for your tickets to the Food Lion CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament, CFG Bank Arena, February 25th through March 1st.
All right. What you got?
So I did go ahead and pull up the Billboard top 5 from the last Commanders playoff. Well, I guess the Commanders have never won a playoff game. The last Washington football playoff win, which was 2006.
By the way, Copilot AI thinks that the smallest contract that led to a compensatory pick was Samson Ebicom for $1.08 million. So, for what it's worth, that's a very small contract.
If he signs, you would think, especially before.
But that's what I'm saying. It's more the signing before May part that seems unlikely. It just seems like Diontae Johnson. It would require, again, the scenario where a team has thrown their own compensatory thing out of the window and they just said, we're not getting any picks, so we have so much money to spend. It requires a team.
It requires, the T. Higgins re-signing and Stephon Diggs probably
nobody being available on the market. But again, it still would have to be one of those teams that. So who are those teams that we talked about yesterday? The Commanders,
with all the money,
the Patriots, and who was the third one? Vegas. So it requires a team like that, having spent so much money on so many players so far, that on top of it, they're just like, what the hell? We'll sign Diontae Johnson too. Doing that before you get to May and when it would still factor into compensatory picks. Go ahead. Sorry.
Do you think you can name the top 5 songs from January 2006?
Oh, this was
the last Washington.
I should have cheated and looked this up.
Yeah.
2006,
which was also a win on the road at Tampa.
Who was popular? Is there a Justin Timberlake?
Not in the top 5.
Is there a?
I don't see.
Is there a Kelly Clarkson? She was very popular then.
Not in the top 5.
Is there a? God, I'm trying to think what
Clarkson
I can.
Had Because of You at 11.
All right, so I'm working. I'm cooking here. Yeah. Is there a Britney Spears?
No Britney bitch up here. No.
Is there a? God, is there a Chris Brown?
There is in fact a Chris Brown. He had the number 2 song at the time.
The number 2 song. I mean, is it Run It?
It is Run It.
Okay, that was just the first Chris Brown song I could think of. How about that? Is there a Jay-Z?
There is no Jay-Z.
Is there?
West was in the top 10 though.
Okay. Is there a Nelly?
Nelly is up there, number 3.
Oh God. What would have been Nelly's song?
I don't think I know this one.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So it's not Hot in Here. That was
No,
much
it's
earlier.
not.
I knew it was not Hot in Here. It's not that Tim McGraw song, is it?
No.
Thinking about. Is it the one My Boo with Kelly Rowland?
Not My Boo. I believe I do actually know that one.
Is it? Oh God, there was one that we were making fun of. My buddy Brandon and I were literally. This is a straight shoot. We spent 30 minutes making fun of this song on a drive home from Philadelphia recently. Song called Grills.
Grills was number 3 in the country.
Shut up!
Last time.
Oh, I can't wait.
Washington won a football
It's the dumbest
game.
song of all time. If you heard this song, you will never believe that it was a popular song.
Grills.
Basically, like it was an industry plant. Grills were very popular, and they just decided there needed to be a song. It makes
grills.
No. It's
even better.
The chorus is dumber than that. Hang on a second. Oh God. I gotta pull it up. Smile for me, Daddy. Let me see your grill. And then he says back, "Let you see my what?" Like there's
My
just
grills.
like it's so bad.
My grills.
It's such an awful song that it
I
actually
wanna
makes
hear
me happy that that's the one that's on the list. All right, so I got 2. I got that going for me.
Yeah, you got 2 out of 5.
It's not nothing.
The definitely 2 very well-known artists are the other 2. The other one I've never heard of in my life. The number 4 song I've never heard of. I've never heard of the artist or the song, obviously.
Okay. It's not the "Hey girl, you make my whistle." I'm just trying to think of what were popular songs.
The name of the artist is it's only 3 characters.
It's 311.
And it's a letter and then a number and then a letter.
B2K?
No.
Oh boy, I thought I was so a letter is it Shake That Laffy is it DFL? Shake That Laffy that was a huge song. I actually
Taffy DFL.
I might have been able to get there eventually after I thought of the whistle song. That was massive. That was a giant song at that point. All right, that doesn't stun me a whole lot. The other 2, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's just it was an industry plant to have something about grills because the entire world was talking about grills. There's nothing there. But you have to wait for a little while, I think, to get to the chorus too, and the chorus is just no.
I go back.
Yeah, this part's bad, but like it takes a while. The chorus is just so stupid. Like there's no point to this song. No.
There we go. Oh yeah.
Let me see your grill. Let you see my what? Your grill. So bad.
That's
just
pretty
an
good.
awful
Pretty good.
song.
Pretty good. Thanks, Nelly.
All right, I'm trying to think of the other artists who would have been in popular in 06. Pink is...
No Pink.
This is a jam. I stand by it to this day. Tap it. Got that bubble gum. Laffy Taffy. That Laffy Taffy girl, shake that Laffy Taffy.
All right, I get
it. That Laffy Taffy. Oh, the place would go nuts whenever you heard Laffy Taffy. That was a big one. Pink is
there's no Pink in the top 5. Damn, where was the highest Pink song here?
Big hit. But I don't know. You're gonna have maybe Beyonce. Is there a Beyonce?
Not in the top 5. She was definitely all over the charts, but not in the top 5.
Black Eyed Peas.
In the top 10, not the top 5 though. My Humps was number 10.
How about that? Jennifer Lopez.
No J-Lo.
Shakira.
No Shakira.
Did I guess Kelly Clarkson? Did I
already
do that?
Not Kelly Clarkson. She was top 11.
Carrie Underwood.
No Carrie Underwood. You're like flirting like right around. Like you I know you're gonna get it.
Am I?
Yeah. Like you're.
It's somebody like these artists.
Yeah, like like one of the top artists ever all time right here.
Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey had the number 1 song.
Was it We Belong Together?
Mm-mm.
Was it Heartbreaker?
Mm-mm.
I don't know. 06?
06. So I guess maybe think more 05 because it was January 06.
Okay. Don't Forget About Us.
Don't Forget About Us was the number 1 song.
All right. I didn't realize it was a number 1 song, to be honest with you.
Don't Forget About Us.
If she put out a song, it would become number 1. Yeah. Like, it really would.
Grills, Laffy Taffy at 4, and number 5. Not at all similar to any of those other.
Was it a rock song?
I guess technically, yeah.
And rock songs used to be allowed to be. Was it Blink 182?
Not
Linkin Park.
No, not that rock.
Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco.
No, not quite. Maybe
Weezer.
rock's the wrong genre to describe them.
Okay, that's not helpful. Then I don't know where to go.
I mean technically they're a rock band, but
they're a rock band. I don't understand what you're trying to. U2?
No, not U2.
Is it like Maroon 5? That's why you're not sure if you can call them.
No, not Maroon 5. I don't know how to describe. I mean, they are a rock band. Like that's
Creed.
Post grunge, not Creed.
Post grunge.
Alternative rock, alternative metal.
Alternative rock, alternative metal. 3 Doors Down.
Not 3 Doors Down. I think you're getting closer.
Getting close. Oh, Nickelback.
Nickelback. had the number 5 song at the time.
Was it the I Have the Quesadilla? Was it that? That's the worst song I've ever heard in my life.
No. What's that song? Is that called?
I don't remember.
Quesadilla?
I don't even remember what the song's called.
Quesadilla, Nickelback song.
No, it
Might
was
have to
like
add that one to the
it's about
rotation.
them being like rich. It was like we all just want to be big rock stars and living that song. I think it's called Rockstar.
Oh yeah. Okay. Rockstar.
Is it Look at This Photograph? Is that it?
Photograph was number 5.
Jesus Christ. That was an adventure. That was good. That was good. Oh, it's so bad. This is one of the worst songs ever made. Ever.
That song rocks.
No, when he says I'll have the quesadilla, I was because there was still a time that we didn't in our country where we didn't realize what we were listening to was butt rock. Like it was just what they were playing on the radio. So we're like, oh, we'll sing along to it. No, that's the chorus. No, you got to get to going to the rest. I'll have the quesadilla. It's the dumbest line in the history. It's the single worst line ever in recording. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis think it's stupid.
Macklemore and Ryan Lewis were good.
No, they were not.
Yeah, they were.
No, they were not. I mean, Ryan Lewis might have
there.
been.
Macklemore had
awful.
Had his finger on the pulse for sure.
Yeah, he had his finger on what pulse? Macklemore and Ryan Lewis would make these songs that had these fire hooks, and then everything else was just dreadful. So bad.
That's a great line right there.
So bad. That was the moment where it all like we were willing to put up with butt rock for a while in our country. Like we were just like, whatever, like this is what we got. That ended rock and roll for the most part. Was that moment right there?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have another tidbit that can top
nope,
that
that's
one.
it. That's it. We gotta go. I gotta
okay.
wrap. We can't stay on late.
Okay.
I have so many
college
things I gotta do
basketball
today.
one. There was a ton of overtime college basketball last night.
I saw the Fordham UMass thing was crazy.
So
Everybody
that was
fouled out.
They 8 or 9 players foul out.
Yeah.
Apparently, it still didn't break any records. There was like
the record is 12 apparently.
There was
players.
over 112 free throws taken, over 75 fouls called. It was ridiculous. The game started at 7. It didn't end until 10:45.
Hey man, got your money's worth.
If anybody was hanging out in the Bronx last night.
Apparently, the whole A10 is really bad this year.
A
bad year in the A10. Accurate. All right, very good. Let's get tubular then.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, here's what's coming up.
Here's the thing. We love Cruise Maryland so much that we got to hear this one again because our visual did not go the first time. So shout out Cruise Maryland.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
Sometimes it's best to not say what you're thinking. Big Ten Network tonight, 9 o'clock, Maryland Northwestern, CBS Sports Network, Hofstra, Towson. I think I'm going to go tonight, actually.
I will be there as well.
I haven't checked out Towson yet this season. I think I'm going to go. 7 o'clock tonight on CBS Sports Network. Griffin's going to be the one getting hammered on those dollar bills.
Dollar
just getting effed up
my
tonight.
sister, I'm dragging my sister along, so yeah, she'll be able to drive home. It'll be good.
Oh, she's not back at school yet?
Nope, not yet.
When do they go back to school?
You
know what? Nope, we don't have time. Okay. Coppin's hosting Cheney right now on ESPN Plus, and then UMBC hosts New Hampshire tonight at 6 on ESPN Plus. Mount St. Mary's at Ryder at 7 on ESPN Plus. Rest of the college basketball, find it link. Well, Big Ten hoops, Michigan, Minnesota, 7 o'clock, Rutgers, Nebraska, 9 on Fox Sports 1. Australian Open, 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, 9 o'clock on ESPN 2. The bummer last night, Francis Tiafoe goes out in 5 sets. That was a bummer. Monumental Capitals Senators 7, ESPN Red Wings Panthers at 7, Oilers Avalanche at 9:30. Monumental 2, Suns Wizards at 7. It's the bummer too is that this is the one time I could see the Suns this year, but I'm so it's a school night. I'm not going down to DC. Towson and the Suns have just bothered me so much. That's at 7 o'clock. TNT and True TV Cavs Thunder 7:30. That's a good one. Rockets Kings at 10 o'clock. USA Man U and Southampton at 3. Round 1 of the PGA's American Express at 4 o'clock on the Golf Channel and Access TV for TNA Impact tonight at 8. Non-sports?
Yeah, a few things. Let's see. Julia Garner will be on Stephen Colbert along with Jarrell.
That's Julia Garner's from Ozark.
Yes. She's in Wolfman.
I have seen.
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
And Jarrell Jerome, I guess is how you say his name. He is in Unstoppable, that wrestling movie.
With Anthony Robles.
Yes, Anthony Robles. With the one leg wrestling in Arizona State. That movie is also available and streaming now on Prime Video. Prime Video is where you can.
Is it free?
Stuff. It is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Out on Prime Video, Unstoppable.
What else did you tell me went to streaming this week that I was going to watch?
A Real Pain, also out today.
Oh yeah.
On Hulu.
Okay.
I
want to watch that.
I
finally watched Fall Guy. That was fun. What a fun movie that was.
Yeah, Fall Guy was all right.
Fun movie.
Yeah, Fall Guy was all right.
My son was loving it. My 7-year-old was all in. He was asking me way too many questions because he couldn't understand all of it. But it just was cool and fun, and it was that did not get enough love. That's a fun motion picture.
Going Dutch Animal Control on Fox tonight, and Practical Jokers, new episode of that. New episode of The Traitors on Peacock. New episode of Beast Games, also on Prime Video.
Can't miss that.
And then Peacock also is going to have SNL 50, the Beyond Saturday Night Live. It's like a four-part doc just honoring essentially the history of Saturday Night Live.
I will watch that.
Yes. And then Kenny Chesney will be on Fallon, along with Brooke Shields.
Plugging Wolfman.
Oh, is that one?
I believe both of them are plugging Wolfman.
Wow.
I believe is what's going on.
Oh, that was. I didn't. We have no time. I was trying to figure out what Brooke Shields was plugging, and I came across this article that would be great for fill in the blank.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Then I guess we don't have time today, but
we do not.
It would be perfect.
All right. Thanks today to a lot of people. Thanks Dave Ginsburg. Thanks to KZ. Thanks to Steve Wyche, Tracy Wolfson, and Gordon McGuinness. We had all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Can You Take Me Higher?
When rock was rock. Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. No quesadillas from Creed. Not going to happen there. Tomorrow on the program, Stan's back in studio with us. Obviously, Bo Smolka will join us. Jay Feely, who's also part of the crew for Sunday's game.
Derek Rackley.
Derek Rackley is doing the game for Westwood One. Stuff and things.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Visit Hartford, Live Casino and Hotel, Cruise Maryland, Crown Trophy, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, CIAA Tournament, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Brigance Brigade, Costas Inn, MSAA, Maryland Sports, Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Go Maryland. Go Towson. Go UMBC. Go Coppin. But I don't know, they're probably playing right now, so whatever. Duke sucks.